Okay. We good, George? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Springfield City Hall, Springfield City Council Chambers. Today is Monday, the 27th of January. The time is 6:48 p.m. Before our regularly scheduled meeting at 7 o'clock, we do have a proclamation offered by Councilor Click Bruce and other colleagues to honor some special activities in our community. And with that, I want to thank you all for coming out here tonight, and I'll turn it over to Councilor Click Bruce. Councilor Bruce?
Thank you, Council President. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody for coming out to show some respect to just a great individual in our community. Also, this is done by me and my colleague, Tracy Whitfield, in honor of Big John Williams. I also want to recognize, I do see him, Andrew Keaton, who reached out to him, and he got all the information and coordinated getting everybody here. So thank you, Andrew Keaton, for your support. So the city of Springfield, this is January 27, 2025, whereas the Springfield City Council is pleased to recognize an essential leader for their extraordinary contributions to the youth of Springfield through basketball coaching and mentorship. And whereas John Big John Williams, originally from the Bronx, New York, has devoted himself to teaching basketball to young people in Springfield. He believes that children are gifts from God, and by investing in them through education, love, and mentorship, success follows. And whereas John Williams has run his own summer basketball clinic, We Got Game. Countless kids went through that clinic, and I was actually a participant of that as well. And he did that for over 15 years, providing children and teenagers with a positive outlet, keeping them off the streets, which is vital, especially this time in climate going on. We need more people like Big John keeping our kids off the streets. Whereas John Williams has an extensive coaching background with 6 years as a head coach of the girls varsity team at New Leadership Charter School, 6 years as head coach of the boys varsity team at Sabbath International Charter School, and 5 years as an assistant coach for the STCC men's basketball team. His experience on the sidelines has made him a highly respected figure in local sports. And whereas, in addition to his basketball coaching, John is a retired social worker with 20 years of service. His insight into the personal and social challenges youth athletes face makes him a well-rounded mentor, known for his leadership and support both on and off the court. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Springfield City Council honors John Williams for his tireless efforts and positively impacting the lives of children and young people. We express our gratitude for his dedication and wish him continued success and good health. And Big John, I just want to let you know, from a personal, really just want to say you're one of those big giants and someone who I look up to in this community. Without you paving the way for guys like me coming up in the coaching ranks, there would be no LeVar Clicks. So thank you for your tireless effort in our community. Thank you for all the countless hours. I know what it is to pick up kids and drop them off, feed them, take it from your own family, housing them. So all that stuff is you can't even put into dollar amount. So I know what it is to be a coach. So Big John, thank you for your trailblazing in the city of Springfield. You're not originally from here, but we adopted you. And you are here. You're part of this community. So we thank you, man. It shows that the people are here to give you flowers while you're still alive and well in your right mind. So Big John, salute to you. This is signed by our official clerk, Gladys Oyola Lopez, also sponsored by myself and City Councilor Vice President Tracy Whitfield. And I'll pass it on to Tracy for Councilor Whitfield.
All right, so this is so personal for me because you guys lived around the corner from my mom and my daughter, Jerry Ann. We couldn't do it without you. When they say it takes a village to raise a child, it really takes a village to raise a child because my daughter would go to the bus stop with their son. He was their protector because, you know, he's a big boy, she was a little girl. And then Jerry Ann would keep her sometimes. If I wasn't home or she got locked out, she could always go over there, and I knew that she was safe. But then my son, when he was going to Sabbath, he was getting in trouble. Boy, he was getting in trouble. And it was men like Andrew Keaton and Big John and Brother Johnny that took my son under their wings through sports. And I mean, I would cry to them and tell them what's going on, and they really would work with my son, and they would understand when I'm taking him out of games, because you're not playing when you're peeing in bottles at school and it's splashing on the teachers. You're not playing anymore. So those are the type of things that I was dealing with my son. Is that Khalif? And Khalif too? Hey, Khalif. And Jerry Ann and Big John, and your kids, we were all a family. And there were times that I didn't know what I would have done if y'all wasn't around the corner from my mom's house. My little baby would have been locked out, but you said she could always come here. You always had open arms for both of my kids, and I appreciate it. My son has graduated college. He is doing big things now. Yes, that's a tribute to all of them. Yes. Because their dad moved to Florida. And so I can't raise a man to be a man, and women needs to know that. We can't raise men to be a man, but when we got other men around that will step up in the place, he ain't an absent father, he's a great dad. We co-parent, but he was gone to Florida. So they stepped up in my son's life and really helped us out tremendously. So this means so much to me, and I just want to let you all know what a proclamation is. A city council proclamation is an official statement or declaration issued by the city council to recognize, honor, and draw attention to a specific event, cause, individuals, or achievements. And so I want all of you out here that mentor, pick up kids, drop off kids, and whatever it is, it doesn't even have to be sports, that you are all part of our family, you are all mentors, and you all deserve proclamations. So give yourselves a round of applause and give Big John a round of applause.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Any other councilors? Councilor Delgado? The mic, Councilor. Yeah. No green. Oh. Well, maybe your green light up top is up. I don't know. We got new mics, so it's a big part of my job.
I'm going to talk into Tracy's.
Okay, there we go. Now we can.
I'm going to talk into Tracy's. I just want to thank my colleagues for bringing this up, and I don't personally know Big John, but what I can say is, I always love when we're able to recognize those folks in the community who are doing the work, because a lot of times you see the folks on TV, you see the folks that are getting all this credit for stuff, but it's the folks in the community, the unsung heroes, the ones that are doing stuff not for the recognition, but doing it because it's the right thing to do. And there are many of us who have grown up. I grew up with a single mom, and I've had different folks in my life impact my life, and we just don't know the impact that folks are creating by our young men and women who are in these programs or getting supported or mentored, the impact that we're having on them. I mean, how many of them would end up in the streets or in a different avenue if it weren't for folks like yourself who are stepping up? So I just really echoing Councilor Whitfield is just thank you to you and all the other folks who are stepping up for the kids in this community, because we need you guys, and you guys are our saviors. So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, Councilor Delgado. Councilor Allen.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. President. I like Jose. I'll just echo what Jose said, and LeVar knows many people in the community and tries to honor people who are really doing something on behalf of the community and everybody. So we come from different parts of the community, but we all need a strong community. We all need people like Big John who are helping our kids and standing up as role models. So I commend you and thank you for the work you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Thank you. John, would you like to come forward and say a few words and address the council? We welcome you to if you'd like. While you're making your way over there, I do want to recognize, in addition to all the other illustrious people here to honor John today, our friend and longtime city clerk, Wayman Lee. Thank you, Wayman, for being with us. It's Good to see you back here, Wayman. It's been a while. Okay, John, we'd love to hear from you.
First of all, I would like to say thank you to City Council for this honor. I want to say thank you to everyone that attended this evening on my behalf. I love my fraternity, Alpha Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated. All my brothers and all my friends that attended, and to all the coaches that participated, because I couldn't have done any of this in the community. My wife, who's been who is my backbone, who has been there with me through thick and thin, through all of this, and I love her to death. It's always been a pleasure for me to do what we do in the community. Growing up in the South Bronx, that's one thing that I've always wanted to be able to do when I came up here. I wanted to graduate from college, and I wanted to give back. I wanted to be able to give back, and the only thing that I wanted to be able to do is say something positive, do something positive for our kids that will help them in certain situations that we may keep them out of trouble. Something that I may say, that I may do. For the little bit of time that I have with them, I take that as precious to me. So whether it was time in the gym, or whether it was Saturday when we were playing music and we were just talking, or we had speakers come on Saturday and talk to the kids, that was important to me. And I took that very seriously when I spent time with your children and when I spent time in this community, focusing on what we needed to do. All the coaches did. We sit at my house to late in the night talking about what we were going to do or what we were going to try to do to help these kids. That's always been our commitment. And again, I want to say thank you, and I appreciate this, and we might have some more things coming up soon. So
Thank you, John. So, John, John, we'd invite you and John, Councilor Click Bruce is going to present you and your wife with the proclamation. If you wouldn't mind coming up past the bar here, we'll take a nice photo with you before we move on. Council will stand in recess for 3 minutes until we convene our special hearings meeting. If the petitioner for the Liberty Street special permit is in the crowd, if you could come forward, I'd just like to have a quick moment with you before we start the hearing. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Hey, listen, did you get an email, my email?
Buddy. Thank you to everybody who joined us for Big John's proclamation tonight. We are going to get the hearings meeting of the Springfield City Council to order. Thank you again, everybody, for coming out and speaking in favor of Big John. Madam Clerk, I think everybody's starting to file in. So, how you doing? Good. So, Madam Clerk, what we're going to do is just ask the audience to bring their conversations to a close. Thank you again, everybody. Okay, Madam Clerk, let's call the roll, please.
Councillor Curran.
Present.
Present. Councillor Allen. Away. Councillor Govan. Councillor Allen.
Councillor Allen, we're taking
Present.
attendance.
What?
We're asking if you're present for attendance.
I am present.
Present. Councillor Govan. Absent. Present. Councillor Walsh.
Yes.
Present. Present. Councillor Edwards. Present. Councillor Davila. It's not working.
Okay.
Present.
Present. Councillor Brown.
Present.
Present. Councillor Whitfield. Present. Present. Councillor Delgado.
Present.
Present. Councillor Santinello.
Present.
Present. Councillor Click Bruce.
Present.
Present. Councillor Perez. Absent. Councillor Fenton.
Present. Focus, are we good to go on recording? Sorry, I didn't check with you first. Thank you, George. Okay, will the council and our guests please rise for a moment of silence? Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilor Walsh?
Yes, we do. The first item is Eversource petition for 306 Patskill Road.
This petition is presented by Eversource. Is there anyone here to speak on the matter? Mr. Velez?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, I'm here.
You have the floor. Can you tell us a little bit about the petition, Mr. Velez? Can you hear us, Hector?
He's muted.
I see that.
Can
Oh,
you
there you
hear
go.
me?
Now we can. Yes, Hector. Thank you.
Okay, the petition from Eversource, 306 Pasco Road. That's a petition from Best Pizza Place. They're gonna install a charging station for electric cars on the parking lot, and they request to Eversource to provide power. And Eversource is gonna install 2 poles on each side of the street of Pasco Road to provide the power needed for Best Pizza Place parking lot.
Thank you, Mr. Velez. Any comments or questions from the council on the petition? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On approval of the petition, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez, absent. Counselor Fenton.
Yes, more than sufficient. Petition is approved. Item number 2, Madam Clerk.
Item 2 is another petition for Granger Street. It's a stop sign.
Mr. Velez.
Yeah, that's a petition from 16 Acres Neighborhood Association. They went to the Traffic Commission to request a stop sign at the intersection of Granger and Fairlawn to put 2 signs and create 4-way stop sign. They already have 2 stop sign there. They request 2 more to get to make the intersection 4-way stop sign.
Thank you, Mr. Velez. Comments or questions from the council? Councilor Click Bruce.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to encourage my colleagues to support this. This is all been brought to by the 16 Acres Civic Association and per their request, and we do have a letter from them supporting this, so I urge my colleagues to support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Click Bruce. Any other councilors on the stop sign? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On approval of the petition, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez, absent. Counselor Fenton.
Yes, more than sufficient. Petition is approved. Item 3, Madam Clerk.
Item 3 is a petition for Verizon on Dwight Street.
Mr. Velez.
Yes, Verizon is requesting to install 2 conduit like 35 feet from the intersection of Dwight and Carew, from that manhole to the building on 90 Carew Street for service. Like, I think it's going to be a fiber optics to serve that, to provide service to that building on 90 Carew Street.
Thank you, Mr. Velez. Comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on acceptance of the petition.
On acceptance, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez, absent. Counselor Fenton.
Yes, more than sufficient. Petition is approved. Item number 4, Madam Clerk.
Item number 4 is for a special permit for the expansion of operations and maintenance facility to include the installation of a paint booth for painting and bodywork at 665 Cottage Street.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Members of the public and petitioner, the City Council will now sit as a quasi-judicial body consistent with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A. This is a public hearing. We invite the petitioner to come up and speak and present their case. You'll be offered up to 20 minutes to present your case. Don't expect you'll need all that time. If there is opposition, we will hear from the opposition. We'll have the same opportunity. And if there's a need for rebuttal, then we'll hear it at that time. So, sir, if you could please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and we would turn the floor over to you on behalf of the petitioner.
Yes, I am Michael Petrin, Senior Project Manager with VHB, located on Federal Street in Springfield, representing the Pioneer Valley Transit Authority.
Thank you.
They are looking to build a 50,000 square foot addition to the rear of their building on 665 Cottage Street. In 2007, they did not receive enough funding to fully build out the project, and so the building was actually truncated slightly, and some of the components were removed as a part of their initial project. You'll see here in front of you, that's the initial design plan. The blue is the reserved area, and the yellow is the existing building. Cottage Street is to your north. To the south is the existing railroad tracks to the rear of the property. The new proposal is to install additional bus parking interior to the building, also with some additional maintenance space. So we are here seeking a special permit for a paint booth and preparation bays as a part of that. We have reached out to the Conservation Commission, received approvals. Engineering Department also received approval. The Office of Planning and Economic Development has issued a letter with a recommendation to approve with conditions, and we've also reached out to the Neighborhood Council, Kathleen Brown, associated with that, with the project also. And with that, I'll keep it short and sweet, unless you guys have any questions.
Thank you very much. Before we go on to any other speakers, is there someone in the crowd that is watching this remotely on their phone? There's a little bit of interference. Sounds like a microphone, like somebody is picking up this with about a second delay. Am I the only one that can hear that? All right, well, the voices in my head notwithstanding, we'll figure it out later. Thank you, sir. And is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition tonight? You can take a seat, sir, please. Good evening, Ms. Brown.
Good evening. I'm Kathleen Brown from the East Springfield Neighborhood Council. We are pleased with the project. We were involved when the first groundbreaking happened for this project, and we knew that it needed a little bit more to totally build it out. So the Neighborhood Council looked at it again. We are in support of it. We are in support of the conditions that the Planning Department has put on it. So we would really be delighted if you would just pass this tonight and move us to another success-free Springfield.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Say again, anyone else wishing to speak in favor, in person or online? Seeing none, that closes this portion of the hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Say again, anyone wishing to speak in opposition, in person or online? Seeing none, that closes this portion of the hearing. Are there any questions from the council for the applicant before we go into deliberation and vote?
Yes.
Councilor Delgado, followed by Councilor Santinelli.
I just had a question. So you're bringing a paint booth. Were you not already doing that internally before?
No, not at this location. It's actually the PVTA's paint booth is located in Main Street. They're going to be eliminating that location and now performing all the auto body work at Cottage Street.
Oh, okay, so they're just moving over. Because I was going to ask, were there new jobs associated with this?
Yep. John, yes? New jobs? Yeah.
John Burke, Manager Capital Projects for PVTA. We will be moving the people over to do that work.
Okay.
The expansion does allow for additional hirings as we expand, because this is really a build out for some years to come. So.
All right, I was just curious. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Councilor Delgado. Councilor Santinello.
Yeah, well, I'm going to follow up with my question, which was also how many jobs would this include? How many jobs look to be created? And do they have to have special certification to operate that paint booth?
John.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have an answer on the certification. We can certainly get that. We're heavily regulated, obviously, so staff is very well trained in terms of the environmental issues on that. But in terms of jobs, there won't be any immediate positions. We'd be moving some folks over from our Main Street facility. But as I say, over time, I think we expect to hire more people for the bigger facility.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else with a question? Counselor Whitfield? No? Counselor Allen?
Thanks, Mr. President. Yeah, just a question on relative to, so when you built the building on Cottage Street, you knew it wasn't complete. There was more that you wanted to build, but didn't at that time. So has that changed? Now, obviously, you have some things to finish, but has your business changed in that sense, that what you're building is different than what you thought you'd be building?
No, it really just allows us to consolidate that 2808 Main Street property. Instead of having maintenance of our fixed-route buses at two different locations, we can now consolidate it all into one. So it's really an efficiency improvement. We can store more buses inside, which is a good thing to keep them last longer. So.
And the 2808 Main Street facility is still an integral part of your operation?
That is now a paratransit vans type for the short trips, the demand response trips, not the big buses, but the little vans. Been converted over.
So its function has changed as a result of that?
That has, correct. That has. When we built the new facility and opened it in 2019 on Cottage Street, that Main Street facility became more of a van facility, except for the paint booth. So we're finishing that little piece, bringing it down, and we're done with that whole change.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a quick question to the first speaker. I believe you say that you got approval from the Conservation Commission, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And can you tell me why you need an approval? Because I don't see, I can't recall of any kind of water in the area or.
Yeah, there is a pond in the rear of the property, rear right. I can show you that on the plan. Pond is in this location. There's also an isolated land subject to flooding here.
Oh, okay.
On that edge of the property. This has a 100-foot buffer associated with it. This does not.
That was my next question. I think that's a 100-foot buffer. So the pond is 100 foot. What about the other side? There's no requirement, no buffer? Okay.
So yes, we did receive a negative determination of applicability from the Conservation Commission, which is
For
approval.
the project or for?
Yes, correct.
A negative?
Yes, which is in approval in layman's terms.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Davila. Any other counselors? Okay. Seeing none. Anyone else in the public wishing to speak? Say again, anyone else in the public wishing to speak? Seeing none, that'll close this portion of the hearing and the hearing. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on approval. You can, yeah, if you have something you'd like to say without questions, Counselor. Yes, okay, that's okay. Go ahead.
I did want to say that I was glad to see the ventilation system that you put in the packet. I know a lot of people that work there, and I particularly know people that work in maintenance also. And it was very good to see the ventilation system. And I also wanted to say that my dad worked for PVTA for 37 years. So most of my life he was at PVTA. So I'm glad to see this project, and I definitely will be in support of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Counselor Whitfield. Any other counselors like to make a comment before we move on to the vote? Okay, seeing none. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on approval of special permit.
On approval of the permit, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez absent. Counselor Fenton.
Yes, more than sufficient. Special permit is approved. Counselor Curran on the reasons.
The specific site is an appropriate location for such a use, structure, or condition. The use as developed will not adversely affect the neighborhood. adequate and appropriate facilities will be provided for the proper operation of the proposed use and to incorporate the planning staff analysis into the decision of the basis of findings.
Thank you, Councilor Curran. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the reasons.
On acceptance of the reasons, Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez absent. Councilor Fenton.
Yes, more than sufficient. Reasons are approved. Madam Clerk, before we call the next item, ma'am in the back with the black jacket and the yellow shirt, would you mind please disconnecting your audio device? It is interfering with our production here. You can't have that on in here. Thank you. Madam Clerk, thank you. Madam Clerk, please call item number 5.
Item number 5 is to amend an existing special permit motor vehicle sales for 731 Liberty Street.
Thank you very much. Petitioner, please step forward. Good evening, sir. Please state your name and address for the record. It's the little button with the person icon. There you go, you got it.
Hey, hi, how are you? I opened my business. My name is Abdullah, 731 Liberty Street. I opened my business before 4 years, 2021. I bring my paper in the city. I took my license, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. I want a new license for 25. The inspection, he tell me you want special permit for my business. And I have the license, the old license, his grandfather is unlimited, the license. And the inspection, he tell me you can put is 10 car, that's it in the shop. I don't, before what time I rented the shop, I don't know is 10 car. I know I can put the cost almost 75,000. I buy the lift, I buy the electric, I fix the shop. And this year I need a special permit for my business. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Councilor Curran?
Is Phil Dromey here to expand upon this?
Counselor?
If you could just give us your analysis of what is requested and what the impact is.
Well, the original special permit for this property was granted back in 2001, but as with most special permits, it's granted to petitioner only. So that means that if the business is sold, the new owner or petitioner or the operator of the business needs to be in the special permit. That has not happened here.
We can't hear. I'm sorry.
We can't hear Phil. Sorry. So, as I was saying, the original special permit for this property, 731 Liberty Street, was granted back in February of 2001. And again, it was granted to the petitioner only. As I mentioned, when businesses are sold and that condition is on, the petitioner or the new owner or operator is required to come into the city council and amend it to change the petitioner. That's what he's asking for today. This special permit was specifically limited to 10 cars for sale at any one time. So, you know, I can't speak to the issue about, I mean, I've had this conversation with the petitioner as well, why the license was issued when it was. It should not have been. I think we're, you know, the zoning officers are doing a better job in going out and inspecting sites. So I think this is how this was picked up. But the special permit itself is limited to 10 cars. So he's asking for a change in the petitioner, which is a step in the process for him to be able to legally sell the cars. He's also going to need a new license, but that's going to limit it to 10. Currently, right now, when I drove by a couple weeks ago, the two kind of main concerns I have with the site, I I understand that the license was issued, so may not have been aware of the special permit requirements, but I got to kind of put that back on the previous owner and the petitioner himself. So there are a number of cars, well over 10, that need to be removed.
If I could, Phil, you said the original permit shouldn't have been given to the original petitioner. Is that what you, did I miss that?
Well, the original special permit was granted to a John Mastriani back in 2001.
Yeah.
So that's granted to him in perpetuity until he then ultimately sells the business.
For 10 cars.
For 10 cars. And I looked back previously in my records for this particular site, and I've got it in the only record, you know, again, the petitioner has indicated has no restriction on the sale of cars. Even the previous special permit that I was able to find for this particular property is limited to 4 to 5 cars. So I can't really speak to how the license got issued for unlimited cars. It shouldn't have been. The special permit is pretty clear. It's limited to 10, and that's what he's allowed to do.
Where does the 4 to 5 cars come in?
I was trying to figure out where he came up with the fact that he was able to sell as many cars as he has.
Understood.
The only paperwork that I have, I don't have anything higher than 10 cars. That's kind of so previously it was 4 to 5, it's now gone to 10, but the lot for the past few years has had probably 20 plus cars on the site, including a number of vehicles being parked on the sidewalk.
But that's on the city for enforcement. I mean, the original petitioner, Mr. Mastriani, had a permit for 10.
Right.
And the petitioner before the council tonight is requesting the same number, 10?
Correct.
Understood.
Yeah. But he still needs to remove the cars that are on there.
So, but what you're reporting to the council is there's more than 10 cars?
Yes.
Understood.
But again, this is one step in the process. He's still going to need a license. I've spoken with Mike Jacob, who's the zoning administrator, who actually does the inspections. A new license to be able to sell new cars will not be issued until the petitioner comes into compliance with the special permit requirements now.
A question, can I ask a question to the petitioner? Are you willing to limit your car sales to 10 cars in the lot? Or do you need more than 10?
2021, sir, what time I do the paperwork and bring here, he give me the license unlimited, my license unlimited, because the license is the grandfather. And 2022, I have license unlimited. 2023, I have license from the city unlimited. 2024, he tell me you need special permit and 10 car. Okay, you can give me 2 minutes here. I have 4 kids. I work hard before I open my business. I work hard. I am here before 12 years. I am come here. I work hard. I make money. I open my business. I know this is space. It's 10 car. I can open my business. Before he give me the license, 21, he can tell me the city, this is 10 car, and you need special permit.
Thank you. My question to Phil would be, was the petitioner before the council granted an unlimited permit?
Before the city council, no.
No. The unlimited permit is, where are you suggesting you received that permit for?
That came from the license commission, who gives a class 3 or 4 license
Understood.
for the sale of cars. But the special permit is to 10 vehicles, and technically the city council at this point, because it's zoned, you know, petitioner, with all due respect to the petitioner, keeps saying it's grandfathered. The sale of used cars is not grandfathered.
So for my clarification, the original petitioner had a license for 10 cars. The petitioner also, by the licensing commission, was granted an unlimited license.
From my understanding from the petitioner, that's what.
And it's the city's position that we want to limit it, or the city's planning the position that we want to maintain 10 cars.
Because that's what the special permit says.
Understood.
Yeah.
It does seem there's like a lot of moving variables on this particular petition. We welcome you here to the Springfield City Council.
Thank you, sir.
And we wish you well at that site. That's a great automotive site in the neighborhood. I've used it myself several times. And so we're glad that you're engaging with and supporting and investing in the city of Springfield. But there's a lot of moving variables on this particular permit. And so I would request that we move it to, continue it to the next meeting so we can sit down with Phil and the licensing commission to figure out, and yourself, what is the number of cars, and then we can all get on the same page before we take a vote. So I'd like to make a motion to continue this to the next meeting.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Curran, seconded by Councilor Davila. Councilor Whitfield?
On the motion, Mr. President, without the petition being passed, he can't sell anything right now? Like, can he still open and operate business, Phil, or anybody? So his license, he doesn't have a license right now?
Phil has to speak into the microphone.
I can't hear him.
Sorry, I keep forgetting to press that button. So back in 2024, when the original inspection was made by the zoning department, they were reviewing the special permit. So the current business was found to be in violation of the special permit. So the license was not granted at that time. So the process of applying for the special permit and coming before the city council was done. But until the special permit gets issued, I don't believe the license to be able to sell cars is issued.
Okay, and I keep hearing that there was unlimited cars. I never heard of unlimited cars since I've been on city council. In my time here, there's always an amount that people can sell, so not really understanding where that came from. Did he produce any proof of unlimited?
I have not seen it. It's my understanding that was from the License Commission, but I can certainly ask for that. I'm not sure about it as well. Again, the License Commission usually checks and verifies that the special permits are in place. Unfortunately, I think this one may have slipped through the cracks, but.
So he was renting from somebody and then came for a license? Is that what happened?
Well, he's been in operation there for a number of years. So I think the city finally inspected him last year and found
But it
that-
was a different owner, different petitioner before, right?
Correct.
So
So
he-
Mastriani, I think, sold it. The petitioner is not the current owner, is my understanding. I think that there's a separate owner. So
There's a
he's
separate owner.
Separate owner. So the owner can change as long as it's the same guy running the operation. So if Mastriani was still there, he doesn't necessarily have to own the property, but he has to be the petitioner. So once Mastriani left, the new petitioner was technically supposed to come in and
Gotcha.
go through this process.
Okay, because I haven't seen a special permit that didn't give a number of vehicles that can be on a property.
Yeah,
I mean, I've been
usually-
on the council almost 7 years. I've never seen that before. So I don't know about unlimited. Unlimited is very broad.
Yeah, and it's a relatively small site, so it's.
Yes, I live over there, so it's kind of small. Thanks. Thank you, Phil.
Can't hear you.
I'm sorry. There were two counselors remotely who would like to be heard. Would you mind waiting a minute? Yes. Okay. Counselor Brown, and then Counselor Santinella.
And I had my hand up too.
And Counselor Walsh after Santinella.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Like we lost Counselor Brown. Why don't we go, we'll return to him. Why don't we go to Counselor Santinello?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. I think it was mentioned at the beginning that there's
You didn't hear me?
Come back to you in a second, Counselor Brown. Counselor
Oh.
Santinello, go ahead.
Yeah, I think in the beginning of the hearing, it was mentioned that there's a bay there. A repair bay? Is that what you have there, a bay to work on cars?
Yes, we have 3 bays over there. It's a
3
service.
bays?
Yeah, it's a sales and a service.
Okay, so you not only service the cars that you're going to sell, but you service cars from the general public.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
And where do you store those cars when they're waiting to be serviced? If you have
So-
unlimited cars on the lot, how many cars do you have there?
Right now, we have maybe like 15.
15 and maybe.
And the cars that we service for the community, after some time, we fix it the same time and we give it to the customer. Usually, we put them in the back until we finish the car we have, we serve them, and then we call the customer.
Okay, so the most you can work on at any one time would be 3, correct?
Actually, 2, because there's the bay in the back doesn't has a lift, so we have 2 bays, 2 lifts, I mean.
So what is the one in the back used for?
That one, we don't use it for anything. We just put stuff in it sometimes.
Okay, thank you so much.
No
Thank you,
problem.
Counselor Santinello. Counselor Brown?
Thank you, Mr. President. I've been over there. I know, it can only hold so many vehicles. And the ones you say you put in the back, I know a lot of times when it comes to, say, even in my area and even over there, it's about the curb appeal. I know you guys, you guys do a good job and everything, but a lot of times when you're designing things, I would just always stress the fact to maybe put a little bit greenery to jazz up the area as much as you can. It's like pots and plants and any of those cars that you're kind of working on. If you have the fence, have the fence kind of with the strips in it so you can't see them in a certain area. Because a lot of times I know when you get into the design of these things, it just the smallest little details will really help, especially when you're driving by it. You won't, even showing the design, the community will be happy, people will be happy, but those are, I know a lot of times when they're talking about businesses like yours, which, you do need them. I'm definitely in support of it. I'm just, FYI, as far as like some of the fencing and things, you want to make sure that you're in your design, that you're taking in consideration to hide some of, hide, block some of that stuff off. So as much as possible and put as much greenery around it and make it look nice, and a lot of times, the community is always for it when you're considering the actual design. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Counselor Brown. Counselor Walsh?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to be clear. Are we being asked tonight to just change the name of the petitioner? Are we being asked to increase the number of cars? And following up on another question from one of my colleagues, if we don't approve this, does this close his business? Because I wouldn't want to see his business close.
I'm going to let Phil answer that, Counselor Walsh, but this is just a petition to change the name.
Okay. So what's the effect of it regarding his business? And being able to stay open?
Well, ultimately, if the special permit's not approved, he would not be able to sell vehicles.
Right.
But continuing it, I don't know if you guys end up continuing it, there's still the possibility he can come into compliance and get the special permit and get his license and continue to sell. But as of now, the request is simply to change the name of the petitioner, not an increase in the number of vehicles.
Okay.
In other words, Counselor Walsh, if we approve the petition before us, the petitioner would be in violation of the permit the moment we approve it. Because he's got more than the 10 cars, and he's saying he'd like to keep more than the 10 cars. Counselor Govan, and then we will get back to you, sir. Thank you for your patience. Counselor Govan, you want to go too?
Thank you, Mr. President. So I guess my question is along those same lines. So if we don't do this now because we don't want him to be in violation, he could still stay in business, just fixing the cars. He's just not able to sell them. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Phil is saying that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Delgado.
Well, that was on the sales of vehicles? That's not in terms of, in general, how many cars he can keep on his lot? Or is there a distinction between the two?
Well, the special permit specifically 10 vehicles for sale. When I visited the site, it was hard to tell what was for sale and what was being stored for work. It was hard to tell.
So from the service side, if he's servicing vehicles, is there a limit on that? Can he?
Well, one of the concerns that I had when and again, this is just me visiting the site, I'm not sure how even somebody got into the lot to park if they were bringing their car. You couldn't even get onto the property to park. So there still needs to be room for customers to be able to pull in, park, employees and park. So you can't jam-pack your lot with vehicles and then park. What is being done now and has been done in the past is park cars on the sidewalks of Liberty Street. There were 2 cars when I visited there and speaking with the neighborhood council. It's a regular occurrence that cars are being parked on the public sidewalk of Liberty Street. You can't do that.
And then just one question for the petitioner. What percentage of your business is the sale of vehicles currently versus service?
To be honest, they're both good. Actually, we sell cars because we got named top rated twice. Our reviews say it all. We get a lot of customers from different states. You know, we service cars, sales is good. You know, because our customer service is one of the best.
Yeah, I wasn't more of like how much of your time is spent servicing cars versus selling cars?
It's not always busy servicing cars. It's always
Okay.
depends on our cars, the one we sell.
Okay.
You know, the service, it's only a side hustle to pay for the rent of the shop, to pay the rent for our house. You know, this is just a side hustle, but the focus on is to sell cars. Usually the sell cars, that's more we make profit at.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Delgado. Councilor Davila, I think I missed you a few times. Did you have a comment you wanted to make? I apologize.
Yes, I just want to ask the petitioners, and Assalamu alaikum, brothers. Did you meet with the association at all in that area? Have you met with the neighborhood council?
To be honest, I don't understand the question.
Did you meet with the neighborhood council? With the community association? No. Okay.
No.
So if I may strongly suggest to you, sir, and this is the part that I really want to emphasize to you, fine gentlemen, because I can totally respect, to use your words, your side hustle. And I know you guys work hard to support your families. First, I would strongly suggest that you meet with the neighborhood council. We rely a lot on their opinion and their support before we make a decision. Also, I want to be fully aware, I want to make you fully aware, and that you do understand that if this body rejects your petition, you will have to wait 2 years to come back to us. And that will be very, very problematic to you and to your business. So I will strongly encourage you. I feel it's my duty to ask you to please meet with them. And there's already a motion to send this to committee, and I think it will be the best at this point for you, sir. Seeing that you are going to still be able to service cars, and I will encourage you to get under control those extra cars you have there, because I know what they're talking about. You do have a little too many cars there, but there's a way to fix things. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Whitfield?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think, if we approve this petition, he's in violation. What happens at that point?
Well, I'll let Phil speak to it, but would probably be the License Commission would continue to refuse to issue the license.
Oh, okay. So he doesn't have a license yet? Okay, I'm confused.
To sell cars?
Yeah.
No, he does not have a license.
Oh, so he had to do this process first?
Right.
And then go to the License Commission
And then ultimately get in compliance with the special permit.
and get in compliance. And so what I heard is the bulk of his business is sales. So even keeping the shop open, I mean, I guess he can still pay his bills based on what he said, but So he has a license for the shop side, not the sales side?
The repair shop, I believe, is what was considered to be the pre-existing use, is the repair. I don't believe, the sales was always a special permit use, special permitted use. I was just checking my file. The original special permit was granted back in 1969 for the sale of vehicles, and then
For the sale?
for the sale, and that was limited to 4 to 5 cars. This
Okay.
one, the current one was granted in 2001.
And that was
That
for?
was for 10.
For 10 cars.
Right.
So he cannot get his license until the special permit process is done. So that is the conundrum right now.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Whitfield. Seeing no other counselors with questions, Petitioner, if you would like to add something, appreciate your patience. We're still in the proponent's portion of the hearing here.
Thank you, sir. It's me, I lost my business. That's it. I have 4 kids in the home. And my rent is $4,500. That's it. And I have license 2006, 7, 8, 9, 12, 13, 14, 16 is unlimited. The old owner. How the city, she gave me the license, I don't know. Unlimited. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Counselor Click Bruce.
Thank you, Council President. To the petitioner, I have a question. Do you have any paperwork on the unlimited that you say that they gave you to issue the license? Do you have any paperwork to clarify that?
No, we did not bring, sorry for that.
In general, you don't have to have it today, but do you have that?
Yes, I sent the old license for the Zoom before maybe 3 months ago.
Okay.
I sent almost seven licenses, the old license.
Got you. All right, so I think that would be key to produce and definitely take heed to what the other councilors are saying, but I think that would be key for me. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Counselor Click Bruce. Counselor Curran.
As there's a lot of things to iron out on this particular petition, renew my motion to continue to the next hearings meeting.
Counselor Curran's motion is still on the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it would be prudent maybe to feel to opine on what this proponent just mentioned. He said that he sent at least 7 licenses, saying that it was limited. I just want to, on the record, that it's not the case. Doing my fiduciary duty.
So Phil, the question is, the petitioner said that he sent you about a half a dozen licenses in the last month showing the unlimited. And Counselor Davila's question is for you to clarify that.
Is that accurate?
If you did, I never got them. I have not seen a license from the petitioner. I've had a number of conversations with the petitioner, but I have not seen a license that says unlimited.
Yeah, thank you, Phil.
Great. Motion on the floor, Counselor Whitfield.
To the petitioner, would you be open to selling 10 until you can come back and then try to increase the number of cars that way? Because you should want to stay open either way.
Yes, ma'am, I can open my business, and what time you give me special permit, I do the process for added, because my shop, he take it between 25 to 30 car is easy. I can, yeah, of course.
So you will be willing to have 10 cars there?
Yes.
And then maybe come back and see if I don't know if you're gonna get 25, 30 because of the space limitation and the parking of the cars on the sidewalk. I think that's part of the issue that the neighborhood council, and for our residents and kids walking to school and things like that, that's a obstruction.
Yes, ma'am.
Being on the sidewalk, but if it were me, I would take the 10, right, for now.
Yes.
And then file another, what is it, amendment to the special permit, Mr. President? And then go to the neighborhood councils, talk to them about it, try to figure out a reasonable amount in between maybe, and then
yes, ma'am.
do the process again. I know it can be a little costly, but at least you're open, right? And you can sell your cars and things like that.
Yeah,
so.
of course, ma'am. Of course, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Delgado? Okay. Counselor Edwards?
I don't believe that the motion is for us to send it to committee or continue it so that all these things can be ironed out, which is what I support. But if we were to grant this, the ideal that we would allow him to continue to operate, he has too many cars on the site as it is now. So at the very least, by sending it to committee or continuing it, we get an opportunity. He has an opportunity to get more back in line where he should be. From what I heard from Phil is that the license that was granted that actually somebody's seen is for 4 or 5 cars originally. 10, and now it's 10, and he may have as many as 25 plus cars on the site now. So how can we, in good conscience, grant a license to somebody who is 15, minimally of 10 to 15 cars over what he needs to be at? And then that's what, even with granting of the permit, he still has to go to somebody else to get the license for the sales. So maybe the best thing to do is for it to go as the motion is on the table, and then let them iron that out. And in the course of ironing that out, then the petitioner can also go about removing some of these vehicles so that he comes back into before us with clean hands.
Right. Thank you, Councilor Edwards. Any other councilors? Councilor Delgado.
Yeah, I have 2 questions. One question is, and this is my colleague Tracy Whitfield was mentioning, is how fast would you be able to get it down to just 10 cars is the first question, because that's the big issue here, that you have too many cars on the lot.
How fast can we get rid of?
Yeah, how fast can you get it down so that you're compliant? Because what I see here is an issue, and I don't want to assume, but it sounds like they might not understand the rules, and so they got the property, or they're renting the property. So it sounds like it's a simple mix of them not understanding it, understanding what they should be doing. And so I don't know what we're doing in general to educate folks when they come to the city, because I know plenty of people that come, they want to do a party or an event, and they don't know that they have to have an entertainment license, for instance. So I don't know what we're doing to educate folks. And I think that, one, I don't want to penalize somebody who's been in business for 3 years. I mean, that's on our end that we didn't catch that. But I want to make sure that we're doing everything possible to work with them. So that's why I'm just curious, how can you get it to where you need to get it, and then figure out on our end, whether it's to send the committee to.
I open new shop. I got the license.
We can move it over there. We can move the cars, and we can leave 10 cars out of shop.
Yeah. I have another shop. I open another business.
You need to take them out, but then leave it at that. Is like, I guess what I think.
Yeah,
like,
leave it at
you've
10
been
cars.
operating for a certain while without the check of like, hey, so I didn't know if you knew that or not, but I think you got to take them out and leave it that way. And I think folks here would be, I think, a little more supportive, because we don't want to be in the business of shutting businesses down either. So
I open another shop. I got the license, everything. It's 30 car. It's a new business. I opened before maybe 1 month. I have license. I can move the car. I keep 10 car. After this, I do process for added maybe 10 car, 7 car, I don't know, 5 car, I don't know.
The best we can do.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
President.
sir. Okay, any other councilors on the motion to continue? Councilor Edwards and Councilor Whitfield? Councilor, your mic, please.
Somebody's mic, okay. This conversation is reflective of a bigger problem that the city needs to address. I can tell you that if you go around the city, and all of us do ride around the city, the majority of car sales, mechanic, dealers, whatever, whether they have a license or not, are in violation. And this is a suggestion that I'm making is that we as a council collectively create more support or make it more important for the code inspectors to be more vigilant, because as you have heard, this is some gentleman who's been operational for quite a while and was just finally caught with this. I can remember many years ago, 15 years or so ago, when we came on the council, there was a business on King Street who had operated fixing trucks that had been operating for more, I believe, 15, 20 years or longer, and hadn't paid a penny in taxes. And additional to that, he didn't own the land that he was operating on. and he fought us tooth and nail, or was very upset when the city actually closed them down. So the thing is I can tell you that one of the most recent, or not the last one, but the one just before that, one of the car dealerships that we recently approved in the downtown area, if you ride past there right now, they're in violation. They've got too many cars, and they're stacking cars on top of cars. And you can talk to neighborhood council presidents all across the city. They'll tell you the same thing, is that we grant these licenses, and then these people, whether it's 5 cars, 10 cars, or 20 cars, mechanics are by nature hoarders, and they'll park as many cars on the lot as they can. So the thing is either we support code enforcement and whatever that iteration looks like, or this is something we just constantly grant it, but it's not followed up with, and it's not like, I'm not trying to be punitive to this particular person, but all of you come from neighborhoods or live in neighborhoods where you've got mechanics and you have car dealerships where you can't get on the lot because there are over too many cars, and who's supposed to be responsible for enforcing that? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards, Councilor Davila, and Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also feel for Mr. Al-Salim on this, and I know he says he's willing to work and move some of the cars. However, the fact remains he has not met with the neighborhood council. And this body here has a tradition of listening extensively to the neighborhood councils. And so I feel very uncomfortable moving this forward unless it's going to committee until they meet with the neighborhood council first. So in my opinion, they do need to meet with the neighborhood council. Otherwise, in good conscience, I'm not going to, particularly the Springfield neighborhood council. Otherwise, I don't think I'm going to be able to support this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Whitfield.
Well, I have a bunch of points to make, but I feel for the small business owner because this is his livelihood. And while I respect the neighborhood councils and their opinion, this is not their livelihood, but it's his, with 4 children. And I respect neighborhood councils and their opinions and the work that they do freely of their time, but this is his job, this is his livelihood, this is his family. And I want to side on like taking care of people instead of protocol all the time, because the neighborhood council might not agree, but we still sometimes vote against what the neighborhood council says, and then that's just more time that he has to try to get in touch with someone, schedule a meeting, then go to licensing, then come back, then special permit all over again, like all these steps all over again. And this is just the ownership change, actually. Has nothing to do with the amount of cars right now. Would you be able to move your cars tomorrow? That's my question.
Yes.
Okay, now that makes sense to me. Move the cars tomorrow, get into compliance, still meet with the neighborhood council just to be good stewardship, but hold them up from being able to take care of his family doesn't seem right to me. It's not his fault, like Councilor Delgado said, that the education wasn't there. It's not his fault that code enforcement didn't see it in enough time. I also don't like to generalize and put organizations in the box, because I've seen some great automotive shops as well as the ones that may overpopulate their lots. And he's willing to take the steps to do what he has to do. So I want to see him in business as soon as possible. And if he can keep his word, move the cars, we have folks in place who can go check that out. And if he doesn't, he's not going to get his license, period. He's not going to get his license. But we're here to vote on an ownership change, not if code enforcement is doing their job, not if he was told the correct information or not. We're here to do a special permit, do the ownership change. I'm in favor of it because he can move his cars to another lot tomorrow and keep his business open. That makes sense to me. I want him to be able to take care of his family. So I will not support this going to committee because I want to vote on the special permit tonight.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would have to agree with my colleague. I think, like I was mentioning before, with the petitioner, if they're willing, when it comes to like curb appeal, if they're willing to move the vehicles When code enforcement went there, I would just strongly recommend to put the fencing where they would put the fencing. So if they're servicing vehicles, sometimes if a vehicle has to stay overnight and now, you really don't want to, it's a tire off of it, you got a fence or something. So no one sees it. No, it's not bothering anyone. You got a couple flowers places, so it looks nice and it's not bothering anyone. That's all that I care about when it comes to. I always like people getting into business, and a lot of times when it comes to the car dealerships, as long as when the customer and the community is driving by, they're looking at it and they're saying, "Oh, that's a nice establishment." So if there's cars, put the cars where they're supposed to be, and fence off what you're supposed to fence off. But I really think as far as us saying, hey, they're not in compliance, let's wait to get in compliance. If they're saying that they're gonna have 10 cars on the actual spot, they're either gonna have it on there now or later. We have to take their word for it anyways. If they're supposed to, if they do not do what they're supposed to do, we do have code enforcement. We have other people in place to inspect, and then they would be fined accordingly until they would be in compliance. But as far as now, they're notified the information. They say that they're going to go and get into compliance. I believe that, hey, I believe them. I don't think that it takes us now to have to go to a committee to figure out if they're going to do it or not. If they do it and they make the area look nice, I'm in agreement with it. And I definitely appreciate you guys doing business in our community. We definitely need to support our business owners, our mom and pops, and I'm definitely fighting for you guys. You guys got my support. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Okay, any other, Councilor Curran?
Mr. President?
1 second, Councilor Walsh. Councilor Curran?
Just for clarification, the motion is to continue the petition, not to send it to committee. Just continue in that way to give planning, code enforcement, and licensing the opportunity to get all on the same page, and which I think is necessary right now, because we had a couple different things going on here. We have the petitioner who wants to sell more than 10 cars. We have Phil, who has said the license is for 10 cars, but there's also that license that is unlimited. So the city is not, it's opaque in its presentation to the petitioner as well as the council. I mean, I think we all need to get on the same page in terms of what is the city presenting to the petitioner. So that, and secondly, I don't think continuing it's not gonna shut down the business. It isn't shut down already. The city already knows the situation, that there's more than 10 cars on the lot right now. So in the interest of clarification, I don't think it's a city council subcommittee that needs to rehash this. I would just simply ask a motion to continue it to the next meeting, and then in the meantime, if there's a regular city council meeting, we could maybe have an update from Phil. And I don't believe I would state that the petitioner's not in jeopardy of having his car lot closed tomorrow. The city already knows the situation with him, and it's not closed. And that would be my, again, renew my motion to continue it to the next hearings meeting so that we can give licensing, planning, code enforcement the chance to get all on the same page and figure out all these licenses that were granted since 1969, some unlimited, some 10 cars, and figure it out so that we have, again, as Councilor Edwards said, we need to have a more uniform approach than this haphazard, piecemeal way we were doing it. And again, so I renew my motion to continue it to the next hearings meeting so the executive branch can get a more clarified view of what we need to do to move forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Curran. Councilor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, it's not clear to me. Can you hear me?
Ken.
Yeah, it's not clear to me how this difficulty arose, whether or not it's the petitioner, the former owner, the city. And it's very rare for the council not to support a change in petitioner. That's just a name change. So I'm in favor of supporting the petition before us.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh. Any other? Councilor Whitfield.
I just wanted to clarify, with all due respect, when Phil came out, and if Phil could come out again, just so I can make sure what was told to us previously is true. The license of this petitioner cannot be done until this special permit is approved. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay, so that is why he is here today, because he went to licensing and he was out of violation, which he is going to correct. I mean, he was in violation, sorry, which he is going to correct. I don't know if his shop would be closed or he would be penalized. I don't know how those steps work, but he said that he would do it. What it would do to continue this is hold up him from doing business, because now he has to come back to us a month later to get approved. So it's gonna stop him from going to licensing, maybe whenever, how many days it takes after your, I think 7 days or something to get the special permit. Once we approve it, is it in effect tomorrow, today?
No, I think it technically is 20 days.
So 20 days. So if we wait till next month to hear him again, then it's 20 days after that. So you're already out 50 more days that he's out of compliance, out of business, out of being able to do his work, when he said right here and now that he would drop to what the special permit says. This is just an ownership change. This isn't about the number. We don't have to get in agreement with that with the city. That's for the city to handle. They should have handled it a long time ago. What we do need to do is let him take the steps so he can continue to run his business and not make him wait another additional 50 days to be able to then start another whole process of licensing, or, you know, it's gonna take 50 more days after this for him to even start going to licensing. That makes no sense to me when he already got to wait an additional 20 days from today to even approach licensing. So that doesn't make sense to me, to keep someone out of business for that length of time when they agreed to just minimizing the cars to 10. Let's let him see if he can keep his word, minimize the cars to 10, so the process for licensing can start. And I agree with Councilor Walsh. It's an ownership change, it's a name change. It's not about the amount of cars on this petition. He would have to file a whole new special permit to get more cars. So.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Any other councilors? We have a motion made by Councilor Curran, properly seconded by Councilor Edwards. Any further discussion on the motion to continue? Okay. We're going to leave the hearing open. So if this continuance does pass, the hearing will be remained open, which means you can present testimony if it is continued at the next meeting. And people who are in opposition, if any, would also have an opportunity to. Before we take a final vote on that, I want to determine whether or not there's anyone here tonight that intended to speak in opposition to this petition. Is there anyone that came here tonight to speak in opposition to this petition? Online or in person? Say again, anyone here wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Okay. We're not going to close the hearing. We're going to leave it open, but just want the record to reflect there's no one here to speak in opposition. Councilor Curran's motion has been properly seconded. It's on the floor. Seeing no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on.
Can you just repeat it? Are you going to repeat it?
It's just a motion to continue, and then the next meeting, just for the council's edification, is February 24th. So it's the last Monday in February.
That's right. Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the motion to continue.
On the motion to continue, Councilor Curran?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan?
No.
No, Councilor Walsh? Councilor Walsh?
You're muted, Councilor Walsh.
She's trying.
No, I just unmuted myself. No.
No, Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown?
No.
No, Councilor Whitfield?
No.
No, Councilor Delgado?
No.
No, Counselor Santinello?
No.
No, Counselor Click Bruce?
No.
No, Counselor Perez absent. Counselor Fenton?
Yes. Less than sufficient. Motion fails. Okay, we'll go back to the hearing. Sir, do you have anything else that you'd like to add and state your case for tonight? Thank you. Okay, if you could please take a seat. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition, either in person or online, please come forward. Say again, anyone wishing to speak in favor? Seeing none, that closes this portion of the hearing. Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Say again, anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing none, that closes this portion of the hearing. Are there any questions, final questions from the council before we take a vote on the special permit? Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can we have Phil come up for a second?
Sure. Phil?
Hi, Phil. Phil, a little talk has been discussed about the petitioner closing the business or unable to perform his job if we don't approve this tonight. How long has the petitioner been out of compliance since that he was notified by the city that he was out of compliance? How long has it transpired?
As far as I'm aware, several months.
Okay. And has the city closed his business?
No, I don't believe they closed the business. It has not issued the license for the sale of cars, but the repair work has not been closed as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
But the license to sell cars has not been issued and won't be issued until.
Right. So we are voting to hopefully pass, well, to change the petitioner, but he still has to, one, bring everything into compliance, 10 cars, at least 10 cars on the lot, and he has to get a license, correct?
Yeah, it's my understanding that once the special permit is approved, the Mike Jacobs' office will conduct an inspection. And
I'm sorry, who will?
Mike Yakum, the zoning administrator.
Gotcha, okay, all right.
So they will conduct an inspection, and if the site is in compliance, they'll notify the license commission to issue the special permit, or excuse me, issue the license with the limitation of 10 vehicles.
Okay, so, but I think we did establish before that if we do continue this to the next hearing, he will still be able to service, do service cars there, but not sales car, correct?
Correct.
So, okay. So take me to the process of shutting down a business. Does the city kick the door in and put boards in, or is this something that if we deny this tomorrow, are we going to bust the door in tomorrow and shut it closed? Or, I mean, how dramatic is this? Or do we send a cease and desist and it takes a while?
I mean, again, I'm kind of speaking out of turn. I really have to defer to the zoning guys that I believe, I don't think the city goes in and shutters a business. Because the business has rights to contest what the city's saying, so I believe notices are sent. If they're not compliant, I believe fines then go out, and then ultimately the business or residents would end up in court.
Right, okay. All right. All right, thank you, Phil. Mr. President, I'm just going to say that, again, I feel for the petitioner. I think he has a lot of good points. And I don't want to do anything to, A, disrupt his commerce, his business, 2, disrupt the commerce of the city, but we got to have an overall view of the city. If we approve this, this is bad precedence, very bad precedence.
It's only a name change.
Councilor Davila has the floor.
Sorry.
Does Councilor Walsh want to say something, or I'd be happy to cede my time? Anybody needs my time? No? Thank you. 1, it will be bad precedence. 2, they have not met with the association, with the civic association. And I know we're not bound by what the associations and civic neighborhood council have say, but we know that we do give them a lot of stock on what they have to say. So I think, and then again, the other part, which I'm not sure if Mr. Alcide fully understands, if we deny this, then he's going to have to wait 2 years. And I want to make sure he understands that, if I may. May I ask?
Sure. Would the petitioner please come forward?
I have a question. I want to be very clear. I want to make sure that you understand what's happening.
I understand.
Well, I've been in the council 5 years. And if I had a penny for every time somebody tells me I understand, then they say I didn't understand. Or two, every time we made a promise and we get the fuzzy end of the lollipop at the end, I'd be a rich man. I want to make sure that you understand that if you get denied today, you will have to wait 2 years. You know what that means?
Yes, yes.
That you cannot come back here for the same permit for 2 years, which you'll be killing your business. You understand that?
I understand, sir.
And you're still willing to take that gamble.
I don't need to close my business, sir. That's it.
If you don't get a permit,
I know, I know, yes.
but you said you don't need to close your business. Because if you don't get it, you're done.
I know, sir.
Basically, let me.
Well, you define this concept by what you
Let me
said.
explain.
Maybe I misunderstood you.
Yeah, he said he doesn't want to close his business
Or you
because
don't
he
want to
made
close
his
your business.
Yes.
no, because he made his business successful in the past 3
Well, I
years.
don't want him to close his
That's
business
why.
neither.
Yeah.
I'm really trying to figure out a way for you to stay open, believe it or not.
You know,
So I wanted to make sure you understand that if this is gone through, you have to wait 2 years. Do you understand? Yes or no?
yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. To the petitioners, I have a question for the petitioner. One thing, I came from car sales background. So when you say that you guys have sold cars for a while and you guys have been awarded based on your customer service, is that correct?
Yes.
And where was that?
So for the top rated dealers, so we got top rated dealer from Car Gurus for the best service, and we got from the Springfield City 2024.
And that's fantastic news. I know a lot of times when it comes to used car sales, we get a lot of people who you can't trust as a neighborhood. You know, you get the lemons and you get people. So say you had someone, do you have people who had, so that means you don't have a lot of people who complain, break down cars or anything. Do you guys have warranties and things like that?
Yes, we follow the law. We never sold the lemon law. We never even had an issue with anybody. Any issue that we have with any customer, we always take care of it, no matter what the customer says. We always tell them to come back, we'll take care of it. We give warranty on the vehicle. We sell cars for the whole community. The whole Springfield, in our neighborhood has bought cars from us. I have family that bought 4 or 5 cars from me. And you can look at my reviews and you can see it. You can read it with your own eyes. I bought 4 cars for me and my family.
And I commend you guys for your business. And now I just, would say, we just would really just want you guys to have the city satisfaction, making sure that you get out to the 10. I don't think just, for my colleagues to know, I've dealt with a code enforcement situation with a car dealership, the same similar situation, and they weren't in compliance. What happens is that the code enforcement will go in. I do know the individual also, and they give them such a severe, steep fine of thousands of dollars, like daily, that you really want to get in compliance. You almost go bankrupt if you do not do so. So it's not something that you can just sit around. Once they come for you and they start to fine you, the initial person who's getting that fine and getting hit, if anything, they're now trying to work with the city to get those fines waived or reduced in some manner, because when they do come and they fine you, it's severe. They have the actual code enforcement. They go in, they'll inspect if the fencing, even down to the actual paving, to every nook and cranny. and they do fine. And so that is still just a separate department from what we're dealing with today. Just giving them the right to do business. That's kind of like what we're doing today. We do have a department, and I can assure you, once they go in, they'll go in and make sure that they're up to code. I can promise you that. And if they're not, they'll be fined severely. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you guys for doing business. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. I haven't spoken yet, and it is my district. I'd like to say a few words if Councilor Whitfield wouldn't mind coming up.
Councilor President Benton, you have the floor.
Thank you, Councilor Vice President Whitfield. I first want to just say that I appreciate my colleagues' due diligence on this site. I, as the ward representative for this area, am familiar with the site. I'm familiar with the concerns about overpopulating the vehicles on the site. And I, as you saw, was in favor of the continuance. Without a continuance, I would be against the special permit. And there's several reasons for that. One of which is in the planning department's analysis, it cites that, quote, at the time the staff visited the site, several of the vehicles were unregistered cars and there was no license plate on those vehicles in the car. We haven't heard any explanation for why there would be unlicensed cars there if they're just doing sales and repair. It wouldn't make sense to have cars there without plates. And additionally, I appreciate the position of the petitioner that they'd be willing to reduce the number of cars to 10, but the promise seems a little hollow to me, at least from where I'm sitting right now. For the petitioner, do you know when you were first cited for having too many cars on that site?
It was 2024.
Okay. So do you know when in 2024 you were cited for that?
What license?
No لما يجوا شافوا السيارات كثيرة عندنا.
No, this year.
No لما 24 السنة.
Okay, so it's your...
One second. Before maybe 5-6 months, I see guy outside in my garage, my dealer.
Yeah.
He took picture.
Okay. How many months ago was that?
Before 4-5 months.
Okay. And when did you first get a citation for having too many cars on the site?
And I tell the guy, what you do? He tell me, inspection, you have maybe 25 car in the lot. I tell you, yes. Why? He tell me, no. 10. I tell you, no, sir. I have license. Inside is unlimited.
Yeah.
He tell me, you sure? I tell you, yes, of course.
Right. So, I mean, we can't, I'm sure we could find out when the department went out there, but, my mic on?
No, can I
Please.
interrupt? I just
Yes.
looked on code V on our system, and there were fines from 2023 that were paid in 2023 from 2022 and 2023.
Thank you. So, we don't have a perfect record. It looks like the clerk can identify some citations that go back well over a year. At least since the planning department has been in touch with you for this hearing tonight, you were made aware that you had too many vehicles on the site. And despite that knowledge, and the knowledge that you were asking for a permit for only 10 vehicles tonight, you kept the 25 plus on the lot. As recently as a few days ago, there were still cars parked on the sidewalk. And you definitely, sir, you definitely had knowledge before that date that you weren't supposed to do that. So I have no objection to continuing this. I would have a real serious objection to granting this permit for those reasons. I don't have any problem with this petitioner or 10 vehicles. I also don't have a problem with continuing a discussion about potentially, if the neighborhood would be okay with it, extending the number of cars that would be allowed. But to come in with personal knowledge about the long existing violations on this site and then to scream that it's an emergency on our part is not fair. I mean, this gentleman knew for a very long period of time he had too many cars. He just didn't want to remove them. And so now tonight he says, well, if you don't grant me this permit, what am I going to do? Well, you should have thought about that the first few times that the city sent out code enforcement. And I'll just say in conclusion that while this is a new site to this council, it hasn't been before us in I don't know, probably over a decade. It's not a site that's new to the neighborhood for concern. It has been a periodic problem over the course of my tenure on the council with too many cars and cars parking on sidewalks. It's not reasonable to expect that the city will be able to enforce and achieve full compliance at all times. They did their best. A period of time went by, and it wasn't caught. Apparently, tickets have gone back over a year, and the petitioner has not fixed the problem. So I think it really sends the wrong message if we approve it tonight. I understand the constraints of the business owner, but I think that they're a result of his own decisions based on his knowledge about these prior violations. So with that, I'll see back, and if there is no intent to continue tonight, I will vote against it. Thank you. Okay, Councilor Govan, then Councilor Santinella.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor
So
Govan.
I guess my question is now, so the hearing is for a change of ownership, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so I'm not, go ahead, I'm sorry,
Which
Mr.
would
President.
otherwise leave the existing permit for 10 cars intact, just changing the name of the petitioner.
Right. So I'm not understanding, okay, and then there's a license issue. So say if we vote to change the name, what is the license issue? I'm sorry. I'm a little confused.
My understanding is that he hasn't been granted a license because he's not in compliance with the existing special permit. There's 2 violations I'm aware of. The first is he needs to change the name, and the second is he's got over 20 cars and he's only allowed to have 10.
Okay, so one of the violations is the name change.
That's my understanding, yes. I believe that's why he's here.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Santinella.
Yeah, I just want to ask the petitioner, you said you got a citation or a proclamation from Car Gurus, but you also said you got a proclamation from the city of Springfield. Who gave you that and when?
It came in the mail. I don't know. You have to buy the plug, like the thing you put on the wall or something. I don't know if it's true. I was looking it up. It was official, but I don't know if it's true. It was not from. It was from Springfield. City from
what?
Springfield.
So the city of Springfield sent you a proclamation. You don't know whether it's real or not.
I mean, after, there's a QR code in the back. You scan it, and you can buy the plug for like $200. I was going to buy it, but I just haven't the time to buy it.
Oh, okay, I'm a little confused, but okay.
Thank you, Councilor Santinella. Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I'm kind of confused as far as we're changing the ownership, correct?
That is the request before us, to change the name
And
of the
the
petitioner.
actual the petitioner themselves, they weren't the ones who they weren't the ones who were getting fined, who were fined in 2023 because they didn't own the property, did they?
I can't answer that question.
Well, they couldn't have if they're petitioning to be new owners.
I can't answer that question. I can. Sir, if
Is
you would
there
like,
counsel there?
if the petitioner would like to weigh in on that.
Well, what I'm saying is, the petitioner, we have a person who is petitioning for, what is it, a new ownership? They're petitioning to be the new owners, correct?
That is correct.
So if they are petitioning to be the new owners, anything that happened with the previous owners, that wouldn't reflect on them, would it? Them being new petitioners.
I don't want to try not to testify too much from up here, but I mean,
I'm just curious.
I think we heard from the petitioner he's been operating the site for a number of years. How long have you been operating the site, sir?
Is it 2021, sir?
Okay.
I got the first license. Is it 2021?
So he's been operating it for about 3 or 4 years.
And
So who was the owner in 2021?
I am, sir. 2021,
So legally, they had to be someone who legally was able who legally
مش انت.
was in that actual location, able to legally sell cars out of that location.
So
What was the petitioner's? Do you know what I mean? If the petitioner, so say if I had the ability to now have 10 cars, who was that person? Who's the petitioner who legally had the right to sell the cars to get the awards and things? Who was that?
which so the shop the shop we're in right now, we rented it. It was sold in 21 from a businessman in Springfield, and we do not own the shop. We rent in the shop, and when the shop was sold from when 21, I read about it. I did some searches. It was sold with a 30 Class D vehicle to sell. It was listed on the real estate. It said, I read the caption, it said, this bay comes with 3 bays and it comes with a Class D, 30 cars to sell.
Well, this is too confusing.
So then and the only reason why, and I don't, and I'm just saying this, even I now have to kind of like this will help you. Okay, I would really listen to my colleague Councilor Fenton also too, because if it say 30 and it's saying certain things, a lot of times if you continue it, because I didn't really understand a lot of the things, because what you're saying now is saying 30 and all of that. You probably want to sit down and figure it out, and then maybe, believe it or not, I don't think you can get 30, but I've seen petitioners be able to come and say, hey, you know what? We should give them another 5. You might get 15, you might get 20. Sometimes it doesn't pay to rush. And for some reason, I just don't understand who the previous owners, like if you're how can you sell cars and get fined and things? And it just sounds kind of funny to me. But I would still, your actual agreement itself, whoever did that to you, they weren't honest with you, because there is no such thing as a limited. And I know for a fact, because I've been in the car business, that isn't a big enough lot for 30 cars. So sometimes you'll do business and get business from another person, and they're not always as honest as they're supposed to be. But those are things you can fix. Because unfortunately, I can tell you that there is no way they said that can fit 30 cars. Thank you. So I would just, like I said, I would try to fix some of that stuff. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Councilor Davila?
Thank you, Mr. President. We've gone at this for a while. We'll still have no consensus, no answers. There's more questions than anything. So I will make a motion, sir, that this wise and humble body reconsider the motion to send to committee, to continue the item to the next hearing meeting.
Okay. Councilor Davila has made a motion to continue, renewed motion to continue. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Edwards. Any discussion on the motion? Councilor Whitfield?
I just wanted to, for clarification, I feel like things are getting misconstrued. The code violations that he was given was for cars being on the tree belt, did go to, I don't know, his first name is Muhammad or second? Muhammad?
First.
Is the
My
first
dad's
name?
Abdullah.
Okay. They were for cars being parked on a tree belt, not for too many cars being in the lot. So if there's more code violations for that, it probably went to the previous owner, because like Councilor Brown said, the name change did not take place yet. The other thing is, can I speak to him? I just wanted to ask you a question. If we continued this hearing till next month, how would it affect your business? And I also want to just, before you answer that, make it clear that this special permit is not to extend the amount of cars. So even if it's continued, that is not what's going to happen. He would have to come back for another special permit to extend the amount of cars. This is just simply an ownership change, a name change. That's it. It has nothing to do with the amount of cars, because people keep bringing the amount of cars up, and it has nothing to do with that. That is not what we are here to approve. Only the name change, like Councilor Walsh keeps saying, is just the name change. But how would that affect you if you if you come back next month around this time, the 24th?
So basically, because if we can't get a license,
Well, if we don't approve you, you can't get a license anyway, right? And then you can't come back to us to get a license to sell cars for 2 years, like Councilor Davila said over and over and over again. So that's what would happen. So if you waited, I don't know, and talk to the neighborhood council, because part of the problem is the complaints are coming from the neighborhood about the cars being parked on the sidewalk.
so the cars that were parked on the sidewalk, we stopped parking them because we know
For me,
listen, this is what happened. We stopped parking on the sidewalk. There's the dealer that's next to us. He usually do and park on the sidewalk. We have couple of businesses next to us, and we have a pizza shop next to us. They usually park their car on the sidewalk. Next to our shop, next to our fences, in front of us, they usually do. Some of them are not our cars. And usually, we do sometimes our customers, sometimes they put their car inside. Me and my dad, we keep our car outside the shop, not parked on the sidewalk. That's what I'm gonna say, you know?
Okay.
You know,
Again, how would it affect you
if we don't have a license, right now our license expired, we cannot sell cars.
Right.
But we can repair cars.
You can still repair.
We can repair cars. That's the only thing we can do.
For now.
I have 2 licenses, Class 2 and Class 3. I don't guard anyone.
No, I understand that, but.
Yes, but I have a question, ma'am. You can get me, yes. My license before 4 years. How the city get me license before 4 years? And this time, a special permit. You can tell me, please? I have my license before 4 years. This shop almost 75,000, the cost. Before I put this money, the inspection you want to tell me you can open new business. You want a special permit, and this is 10 car. Before I put $1, not after 4 years. Not after 4 years. I open my business is 4 years. I work hard for this business. Before I open my business, the city, she want to tell me, you want a special permit and 10 car. I tell them, thank you. I tell the owner, I don't need this shop. That's me. I have license 4 years. How the inspection, he give me license 4 years.
They did not mention it in the
beginning. I do this business 4 years.
Yeah, they did not mention it in the beginning.
Exactly.
We need a special permit.
Yes, special permit and 10 car.
I don't see any sightings to you for the amount of cars in the lot. I just want to say that. They were for being parked on the sidewalk. I'm going to say it again. They were for being parked on the sidewalk, not for having too many vehicles on the lot. That did not go to you. So if it went to the previous owner, that could be the case, but I don't see that, a record of that going to you. It was for the cars that were parked on the sidewalk. Another question that I have is about the license plate, because when I go to shop for cars, they don't normally have a license plate on them. They put one on for me to go test drive it, but they don't normally have a license plate sitting on them. Do they supposed to have a license plate sitting on them?
The dealer plate, you mean?
I only see the dealer plates put on when I test drive the car, but sitting in the lot, I don't see a dealer plate.
No,
but
you want to use the dealer
they were
plate.
supposed to have
You
the
have
dealer
to
plate?
have used the dealer plate. And the picture that he was the dealer plate was on the window. We usually sometimes we keep it on the window because we test drive in the car. A lot of the times dealer plate gets stolen because we put screwdrivers. I mean, you can go in behind us, we can't see him, and he can unscrew the dealer plate and take it, and we have to wait. And we're paying almost $11,000 a month on insurance on these dealer plates, and you have to have a wait, and you have to get another dealer plate. We cannot lose dealer plate. That picture that it shows the deal, it does not show on the dealer plate because the window was tinted, and we never had a police officer stop us and tell us, hey, you cannot have your dealer on the window. I understand we're supposed to have it on the car, but for one reason is they get stolen a lot. That's the only reason we keep it on the window sometimes. We do not put unregistered cars on the street. It's very dangerous for the public, and it's very dangerous for the people. You can hit and does not have insurance.
So my cousin also owns a car dealership and does the same thing for the same reason. Right on Boston Road, they steal the dealer plates, they go for joy rides, and that is a reasonable thing that you are saying, and I know that happens. Dealer plates are stolen, and then joyriding happens, and that could actually cause a more serious accident than the dealer plate being in the window. But I just wanted to get an explanation on that. But again, if we continue this, because you might not have the votes, would you be okay with that? It'll just be till next month. I know it's not ideal.
It's not easy to process for him.
It's not ideal, but
you know, my dad is 50, so it's not easy for him to
I'm 50.
process. You know, he works. You look young for 50.
Thank you.
So he works. You know, a lot. So it's, you know, this is his business. You know, he grew that business for us to work in it, learn it, and you know, it's very hard for him right now that if the 4 years is crashing down on him, like for only a special permit. You know, and I'm the one who's managing the whole shop. I'm the one who's doing everything for him, you know. I don't go to college because I've been with him since I was 5 in that business. And I'm just doing everything for him. And I tell him, Dad, you know, you got to do that, you got to do that. I fix the mistake for him. Yeah, and I know he's not supposed to have more than 25 cars. I tell him.
No, 10.
Yeah, and my dad stressed a lot, you know. He stressed a lot, so I tell him, you know, move the cars, you know, stop barking on. Even when I get customers that come on my, you know, to visit our car, I tell him, do not bark on the sidewalk. Either you're gonna get a ticket or you're gonna get a violation. And nobody will block our driveway because I know people cross the road. And every time, either we back up or that we never block the road.
I'm just trying to figure out what are we trying to accomplish as a city council if we continue it? Like, is it just to have him go to the neighborhood council and tell the neighborhood council that he'll move his cars like he told us, and that he won't park on the sidewalk, and that he will have 10 cars, and then the neighborhood council, we get a letter of support or not support, and then we come back and do the same thing again? I'm just trying to figure out what we're trying to accomplish here by holding up the special permit that's only a name change, if someone can explain that.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Any other councilors? Councilor Allen?
I'd like to call a question.
Okay, motion's been made to call the question. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor Davila. Okay, it's on the motion to continue. So this will call the question on the motion to continue. This is 2/3 are required to pass the call the question. If it passes, then we'll stop all debate and go right to the motion to continue. Councilor Click-Bruce.
Mr. President.
Councilor Walsh.
I believe Councilor Whitfield did ask a question for clarification, so if somebody could please clarify that before calling the question, because those are some clarifying questions that we need to have answered. I think those are valid questions so that we already spent enough time on this, right? So another few minutes is not going to hurt, in my opinion. So.
Thank you, Councilor Click-Bruce, but there is a motion to call the question, which has been seconded, so that. You don't,
How do you jump from the question that I asked to somebody else? I thought he was gonna try to answer the question, but he called the question, so how does that work like that?
Can I have a point of information?
Well, it could have been Phil. It didn't have to be. I said, can someone explain it to me? Normally, you'll say Phil. Sure. No, I asked specific questions. I said, what are we going to accomplish? What are we going to accomplish by continuing this, except going to the neighborhood council? Is that the only thing that we want done?
I mean, I will allow Counselor Whitfield for Mr. Dromey to respond, but I don't think, the reason I didn't prompt Mr. Dromey is you didn't ask for him, and that didn't seem like a question appropriate for the planner to ask. But go ahead, Mr. Dromey.
Well, Phil.
Well, in my opinion, I think the biggest reason that the continuance is being asked for is to get the petitioner into compliance with the existing special permit. Not only the name change, because there's been a lot of discussion about that, but the fact that the petitioner is not in compliance with the current special permit, being so by having too many vehicles. That's the larger question, and with all due respect.
So is he not in compliance, or is the current owner that's on the petition?
These two
not in-
petitioners are not in compliance.
They're not in
Because they're the
compliance.
ones operating the business and have been operating since 2021.
So,
So they received a license, which again, I would say was issued in error, but the special permit needs to be complied with as well. So they have been cited. They have been cited for several months, and with all due respect to the petitioner, this issue could have been resolved easily. I also want to point out that they have also opened another used car dealership over on Magazine Street, which they were able to find a lot, which actually is a pre-existing use, doesn't need a special permit, they can open tomorrow. So to me, the idea that if they don't get their 30 cars here, they're out of business, they can move those cars over to the magazine lot and start selling cars there as well. So to me, the larger issue is this site needs to come into compliance with what the special permit says.
with the current special permit?
Right, and if they had done that 2 months ago, we wouldn't be in the position we are today.
Thank you. Now that makes sense, Phil, because nothing else anybody else said did.
Thank you, Counselor Whitfield. Okay, motion made and properly seconded to call the question. Madam,
I did have,
I'm sorry, Counselor Walsh. Motion to call the question when it's made and seconded stops debate until we can dispose of the motion. So Counselor Allen had the floor, he made the motion, it was seconded, and we're going to call the roll on that motion. If it passes, then we'll proceed immediately without discussion to the motion to continue. If it fails, then we'll open it back up to general discussion on the motion. Okay. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. 2/3 are required.
On the motion to call the question, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Walsh.
no,
No, Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
No.
No, Counselor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce.
No.
No, Counselor Perez, absent Counselor Fenton.
Yes, that's 9 votes, more than sufficient. Madam Clerk, you concur?
Yes, and the next would be a motion to continue.
Okay, so on the motion to continue, please.
On the motion to
Simple majority is required, 7 votes.
on the motion to continue, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Walsh.
there's really not much choice. Yes, reluctantly.
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez, absent Counselor Fenton.
Yes, more than sufficient. Hearing is continued to our next hearings meeting, February 24th. The hearing will remain open on that night. Thank you. Okay. Madam Clerk, item number 6, please.
Item number 6 is to amend the Springfield zoning ordinance by amending Article 4, Section 4.7.100, which is registered marijuana dispensary and off-site medical marijuana.
Okay, Mr. Dromey, you have the floor.
Good evening, councilors. Phil Dromey from the Office of Planning and Economic Development, and I'm here this evening on actually a couple of matters. The first item is an amendment to the existing zoning ordinance, Article 4, Section 4.7.100, which is the registered dispensary and off-site medical dispensary zoning ordinance, basically the medical marijuana ordinance. As the council is aware, the current ordinance was implemented back in 2014 when the state voted to allow medical marijuana. At that time, a number of guidelines and restrictions were put in place. A lot of those were based on the existing state laws at that time, and they tended to be a little more, I don't want to say harsh, but a little more stricter regulations. Specifically, you had to be 500 feet away from a number of items such as public and private schools, and at that time, it included elementary schools, high schools, colleges, universities, child care facilities as well. You also had to be 500 feet away from a residence, a building containing residents in a residential zoning district. And also the city at that time limited the zoning of where medical marijuana could open to industrial A. So it limited to where these particular uses could be located. In fact, I believe there's only one medical marijuana operation in place, and that's over on Cottage Street. Back in 2018, after the statewide referendum, which legalized recreational use, the city council implemented another set of ordinances for the adult use. And these were, again, based on the state regulations at that time, which were much more less restrictive than what the original medical marijuana was. Specifically, you still had to be 500 feet away from a school, but now the schools were only limited to pre-existing public and private schools providing education in kindergarten and grades 1 through 12. So it did not include colleges, universities, or child care facilities. There was also a section in the original medical marijuanas where it also included anywhere where children regularly congregated. So that was part of that. So, and then also when the adult recreational marijuana ordinance was passed, it was also opened up to another number of other districts, including Business A, Business B, Business C, Riverfront, Industrial Park. So at that time when we did the adult use, there was talk about amending the medical marijuana as well. That was never completed. So having both of these operations in for a number of years now, what's being proposed tonight is basically a amendment to the medical marijuana ordinance, which basically mirrors what the adult use would allow you to do. So again, it opens it up to being allowed in more districts. You still would have to go through the full special permit process for a new medical marijuana use if they wanted to open up in the city. But it would basically allow them to go into the areas where adult recreational use retail operations are currently located. So I believe there are, I think, 4 recreationals currently open. I think 6 were approved. There's still a couple that I'm not sure what the status is. But again, what's being proposed tonight is just basically kind of an amendment to mirror what is allowed in the adult retail use. So I'm happy to answer any specific questions if you have them. Again, this is probably long overdue, but this has been reviewed by the law department, and changes were made. Again, you know, one of the good things about this is if you are a current adult retailers, you would now be able to do medical in the same facility that you're in. Currently, right now, none of the facilities that are open under our current ordinance would allow a medical section. because none of them are located in the Industrial A section of the city. So that alone would knock out anyone trying to open a medical use. So, you know, either Six Bricks or INSA or, you know, some of those that are open could currently combine the two uses together. And again, I don't, you know, when the adult use first opened, there was obviously a lot of traffic concerns. But as more of these uses have opened, we found that the impact to the surrounding land use is certainly not anywhere near what people had originally thought. So I don't see this as a significant impact to neighborhoods or to the uses themselves.
Thank you, Phil. Councilor Whitfield, or would we rather, you know, see if there's anybody else to speak and then get opposition? Is that okay if we do that first?
This is a hearing.
Yeah. Okay, so is there anybody else speaking in favor of this petition tonight? Say again, anyone speaking in favor? Seeing none, that'll close this portion of the hearing. Anyone here to speak in opposition, at home or online? I mean, in person or online? Say again, anyone here to speak in opposition? Seeing none, that'll close this portion of the hearing. Questions from the council for the applicant, Councilor Whitfield.
Phil, can you just, so the only changes that we're making is to allow medical in the adult use? Can you just dumb it down for me? I just want to know what the changes are, because you said a lot.
Well, yeah, so basically the biggest changes are kind of making the medical marijuana more reflect what's allowed in the adult, which the recreational retail use. Because again, currently right now, as written, the medical marijuana is only allowed in industrial A. You have to be all these distances away from schools, including colleges and universities. So all that language is basically being removed. And basically, it's the adult recreational use in a medical marijuana form is what the...
But can both happen?
Yes. But they still both trigger special permit requirements. So it's not, medical marijuanas are not suddenly going to start popping up. They would still have to go through the special permit process as they always do to operate in the city.
So basically, it's allowing INSA to be able to sell their adult use recreational in their medical facility.
INSA is the only one that has currently a medical marijuana, so it would.
So that's what it's allowing. And do they have to come back and amend anything, any special permit, their medical permit, or is this an automatic change?
It's a tier 1 administrative site plan review for an operation.
It's a what?
It would just be a site plan review versus a special permit. They currently have a special permit to operate at Cottage Street.
Right.
So this would allow them to move that if, for instance, if INSA, again, INSA is the only one
Right,
who has
that's why
one.
I'm using INSA.
So they would be able to move that to their West Columbus Avenue facility with an administrative site plan review versus an amendment to the special permit.
So they'll be able to move adult use to the medical and medical to the adult use facilities, because they have two.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't thinking the other way around, but I don't believe this is specifically limited. The site plan review is for an existing medical that's going into an existing retail use. So you have to already have your special permit for the retail use in order to move your over. So for instance, if Six Bricks wanted to do one, they could.
If they wanted to do medical in Six Bricks, they can just give you a site plan and be able to do it now?
No, because they don't
So
have.
it's for INSA to be able to sell retail in their medical facility, basically. They're basically the only one right now in Springfield who can do that.
Correct.
So this is benefiting them only right now.
Well, it opens the door for others to come in and ask for a special permit for medical marijuana, and again, specifically for an operating business. But as written, they can't even ask for it now. So anybody, the one on Boston Road, couldn't even ask for a medical because they're not.
But they could ask for a medical once this changes.
Correct.
They have to come for a special permit.
Right. They would need a special permit.
But INSA only needs a site plan to sell adult use in their medical facility. And then they only need a site plan to sell medical in their adult use?
No. This is only for an RMD, which is a medical dispensary located within an existing fully permitted adult use marijuana retailer. So it's only going one way. It's not, they can't move their adult retail use to Cottage Street. It's only the other way around. It's only
Right,
they can move it.
so it's only for INSA to put recreational in their medical, like I said.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue that it's,
They're the only one,
gets,
they're the
INSA
only
has a
one who can
benefit.
currently do that and with a site plan, review. That's what we're saying.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Counselor Whitfield. Any other counselors on the petition?
I did have a question.
Counselor Walsh?
So does this amendment, does this change the 500 feet rule? Does this eliminate the 5 feet in schools?
No, it's only now would be 500 feet away from a kindergarten or 1 through 12. It would not include colleges, universities, and daycares, which the adult retail use doesn't currently require.
I kind of like that restriction.
Thank you, Counselor Walsh. Any other counselors? Okay, any other counselors online? Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor or in opposition? Last call. Anyone in favor or in opposition? Seeing none, that closes this portion of the hearing and the hearing. Madam Clerk, can please proceed to the roll call. On the zone change, 2/3 is required.
On approval of the zone change, Counselor Curran. Yes. Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Walsh.
No.
No, Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila. Yes. Yes, Counselor Brown.
Stay.
Abstain, Counselor Whitfield.
No.
No, Counselor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Santinello.
Disconnected?
Away, Counselor Click Bruce. Yes, Counselor Perez absent, Counselor Fenton.
Yes, Madam Clerk, I count 8, which would be insufficient. Can you confirm?
Correct.
Okay, item fails. Next item, item number 7. Item fails, yes.
Item number 7 is to amend the Springfield zoning ordinance by amending Article 4 by adding Section 4.7.120, accessory dwelling units, and amending Article 4, Table 4-4 by adding 2.9, amendment to Article 4, accessory dwelling units as well.
Okay, Mr. Dromey?
Oops, sorry. Just to kind of quickly review the ADU law, as the council is aware, back on August 6th of 2024, the governor signed into law the Affordable Homes Act. This was legislation that offered just about $5 billion in spending over the next 5 years, and along with that was nearly 50 policy initiatives, and one of those being the accessory dwelling unit legislation, specifically Section 7 and 8 of the Affordable Home Act, amended the State Zoning Act. Section 7 is the definition of accessory dwelling units, and Section 8 is actually the law. Just to kind of clarify for everyone what an ADU is, so an ADU, or accessory dwelling unit, it can exist in a primary residence, like converting a basement. It can be an addition to an existing dwelling that included new construction, or it could be the conversion of an attached garage. Or the law passed also allows a completely detached structure, such as a, cottage or a tiny house in a backyard, again, assuming you have the square footage. August 6th was when Section 7 of the definitions took effect. February 2nd of this year is when the actual law, Section 8, takes effect. So that's why we are proposing these regulations prior to that date. As part of the amendment, the Section 3 of the zoning acts, accessory dwelling units really became a protected use, like childcare facilities, religious uses, and educational uses. I kind of refer to the, kind of the Dover Amendment uses, which allowed churches and schools to kind of, the use itself is exempt from zoning. The full list of protected uses are listed in the Zoning Act. But like other protected uses, accessory dwelling units are subject to reasonable regulations. An accessory dwelling unit, for the definition, is a self-contained housing unit inclusive of sleeping, cooking, and sanitary facilities on the same lot as the principal dwelling, subject to otherwise applicable dimensional and parking requirements. The ADU, it must maintain a separate entrance either directly from the outside or through an entry hall or corridor shared with the principal dwelling sufficient to meet the requirements of the building code. It does have a limitation on size. It can't be larger than half the gross floor area of the principal building or 900 square feet, whichever is smaller. So for example, if you had a 1,000-foot ranch-style house, the largest you could have an ADU would be 500 square feet. It is subject to additional restriction, may be imposed, but it's limited on what the city can impose. However, one of the items that the city can impose is that these cannot be used for short-term rental. So the Airbnbs, accessory dwelling units, cannot be used for that. And the ADU has to be on the same lot as the principal dwelling. So you won't be, you can't later on create a lot change and cut off the ADU and sell it separately. It has to be on the same lot as the principal dwelling. Legislation itself, this is where the law is pretty specific about what cities and towns can do to regulate. Specifically, the law specifically states that no zoning ordinance or bylaw shall prohibit, unreasonably restrict, or require a special permit or other discretionary zoning approval for the use of land or structures for single-family accessory dwelling units. It does have to be, accessory dwelling units are limited to single-family residentially zoned districts. So under the ordinance, we are saying that they would only be allowed in Residence A or Residence A1. Those are our two single-family residential districts. They are subject to reasonable regulations, and one of those is the requirement for a site plan review. It is also, they all are subject to dimensional setbacks and the bolt and height of the structures. As I mentioned, it needs to be on the same principal use. One of the big things that the law specifically states is that a city or town shall not require owner occupancy of either the accessory dwelling unit or principal dwelling. That's a pretty significant change to what, Springfield has never allowed accessory dwelling units. A number of surrounding communities has. So the accessory dwelling units are not a new thing, but in most surrounding communities, the owner occupancy has been a big item that you had to be an owner occupant and due to accessory dwelling unit. Again, these used to be called the old in-law apartments that you would put on. But the law specifically was written that you cannot require that any longer. And the city is also allowed to require an additional parking space. There is language that if you happen to be within a half mile of a commuter rail station, subway station, ferry terminal, or bus station, you cannot require an additional parking space. But I have gotten clarification from the law department that, it doesn't say bus stop, it says bus station. So we're going with it that you are going to have to require, because I mean, the only bus station that Springfield has is Union Station. So, I have been to presentations on this particular subject where there has been argument that bus stations or bus stops should count. I have gotten an opinion from the law department that the way the law is written, it is bus station versus bus stop. So we are going to, at least in the proposed regulations, we are requiring that you provide an additional parking space. Again, some of the key aspects of the regulations we're proposing is that it would only be allowed in Residence A and Residence A1, which are single-family districts. Short-term rentals could not be used for, ADUs could not be used for short-term rentals. The principal building in ADU must remain in common ownership, and all new construction must meet the state building codes and all the underlying zoning requirements. There is in the law as well that additional ADUs are allowed, but those are required to, the city can require those to obtain a special permit for more than one ADU on a lot. So that would bring it to the city council if someone wanted to do an ADU, more than one ADU. And again, the proposed ADUs must meet all the dimensional regulations of the underlying zoning. So again, one of the key aspects of the proposed regulations that we're asking for is we are requiring that people looking to do ADUs are going to be required to go through an administrative site plan review. What this does is allow the city a regulatory control to be able to review what's being proposed for the ADU. The site plan has to be drawn by a qualified professional, engineering, architect, et cetera. The site plan must be drawn to scale and show the location and square footage of the existing dwelling and the proposed ADU. The plan must also show all egress points. And obviously, they must show that they have the parking. So again, the site plan review acts as a regulatory control for the city to be able to review these. They would start with the Office of Planning and Economic Development. I would work in conjunction with the building department to review these plans because, again, the site plan review is going to vary depending on what someone is doing. If someone's just simply converting their basement, all I would really be looking for in a site plan review is that they have the parking requirements because they're not extending the building. If they're talking about putting on an addition or they actually have the space to actually build a tiny home, then obviously we would be reviewing all the required setbacks. You've got a 10-foot side yard, 30-foot rear yard, so you still need to meet all those underlying requirements in order to put one of these in. And also, it's important to note that all new construction for these specific uses will all have to go through, the full building permit process, so electrical and plumbing. Because again, putting in sanitary and kitchen, I don't believe these are going to be cheap to do, but they will have to go through all permits. So that's what we're proposing. Again, we do think the site plan review is important as it gives the city at least a limited control over how and where these are going and ensuring that they meet the underlying zoning requirements. Again, if it's the will of the city council not to approve this, I stress that the law still goes into effect February 2nd. So without a site plan review process, a person would simply just go to the building department and pull the permits. Again, they're still going to need all their building permits because we're talking about significant construction, either converting a basement or converting a garage is still a significant job. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Let's first see if there's anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition, in person or online. Okay. Mr. Allen, Richard Allen has raised his hand. Mr. Allen, would you like to speak? You have the floor.
Yes, I would, Mr. President. Thank you.
Name and address, please.
My name is Richard Allen. I live at 94 Pondview Drive in Springfield.
Thank you.
I just want to speak in favor of the proposed regulations that the planning department has presented. I think they're a thoughtful and responsible reaction to what's happened on the state level. I regret that the ADUs are now allowable by right. And I think that Springfield is one of many communities that are gateway cities. And I think that in gateway cities, it's always a challenge to maintain a middle class. And Springfield has a strong history and tradition of maintaining housing that is responsive to the needs and desires of the middle class, and that's been accomplished mostly through the vehicle of single-family housing, Residence A and Residence A1, single-family zoning. Excuse me, and I would just note that there are a couple of pieces of information. There are over 26,000 single-family homes in Springfield. And there's about 33,000, maybe closer to 34,000 now, residential parcels in Springfield. And as you can see, 26,000 plus of those are single families. And I think that gives you an idea of how predominant the single family use is in Springfield. In terms of single family homes in Residence A and Residence A1 zoning, and I got a preliminary response to a request for data the other day, and I'm told it's 21,761 single-family parcels in Springfield that are in either Residence A or Residence A1 zoning. The balance would be in Residence B, Residence C, what have you. So I guess I'm really just concerned as a homeowner and as someone who believes in Springfield that single family zoning has been critical to maintaining its viability. The ADU, I think, by right, is a use that could threaten the viability of certain neighborhoods, segments of neighborhoods. And I saw this in my service as an assessor. I'm just concerned that kind of impact could evolve here in Springfield. And one other interesting fact, and this has been the case for a long time. The single family assessed value in Springfield is always approximately 1/2 of the total assessed value in the city. That total assessed value, not just residential, but residential, commercial, industrial, and personal. So that gives you an idea of the significance of single family value. And I would suggest that the single family zoning in the neighborhoods where we have some 21,761 single family parcels, that zoning is critical to maintaining the city's economic and fiscal stability. So I regret that the council and cities such as Springfield find themselves in this position. But I strongly urge the council to adopt the regulations as presented. I appreciate your time and consideration this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the petition in person or remotely? Okay, say again, anyone wishing to speak in favor? Seeing none, that closes this portion of the hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition in person or remotely? Say again, anyone wishing to speak in opposition in person or remotely? Okay, seeing none, that closes this portion of the hearing. I'm going to turn it over to councilors for questions that they might have for Phil. We're going to start with Councilor Davila. I just want to remind councilors the time is 9:24. I feel a little under the weather tonight, so if we do get to 10 o'clock, we can't stop it by then. I'm going to object to going past 10. But we've got 36 minutes. Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Phil, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
So, Phil, this is going to go into effect February 2nd regardless, correct?
Correct.
And so what you're asking us to do today is what?
To pass the draft regulations that were submitted.
Okay, and can you, in layman terms, basically that means for the people watching at home?
So currently, right now, the city does not have a section kind of regulating accessory dwelling units. So the proposed regulations outline a number of criteria and specifies exactly where they can be located, the sizes they can be, requiring that they meet the underlying zoning regulations, all building permits.
Right.
And then, most importantly, at least in my opinion, is the clause that allows the city to complete a site plan review on new accessory dwelling units.
Gotcha. Now, Phil, question for you, because I had a lot of people, constituents, express concern to me on these new ADUs, particularly in the historic district. Many of us here in the city, there are many historic districts, but I happen to have the Forest Park Historic District in my neighborhood, in my ward, and they are kind of concerned of the impact that this is going to have in their historic district. So the first question, doing my due diligence, can the historic district be exempt from this?
No.
No. So it is state law that everybody has to comply with this, correct?
If you're in a single-family residentially zoned district, yes.
Okay.
These are, and I just want to clarify that because this was in the subcommittee as well.
Right.
The state law doesn't trump the review for historic districts. So if someone wants to do an ADU in Forest Park Local Historic District and it happens to be in addition to the house, they are going to have to go through all the requirements of anybody who's put in new windows or siding or anything else. They're going to have to go before the commission, provide plans, and get approval prior to any construction being done. If it's the conversion of a basement, then the commission has no control on the interior of the buildings anyway. But if someone's looking to either add a tiny house in their backyard or an addition in a historic district, the law does not trump the fact that they can just go out and throw up whatever they want.
I understand. So basically, just to clarify, if somebody wants to do an ADU in a historical district, they will have to comply with all the historical conditions that come along with it. Okay, very well. Now, Phil, we're talking about site plan review. Are we having any kind of fees for these site plan reviews?
We currently don't have a fee for an administrative site plan review. When we redid the zoning ordinance back in 2013, there was a specific concern because we had added a number of new regulations, including the need for a site plan reviews for other uses that we didn't want to add to burden the business community or with more fees. But that was back in 2013. You know, if it's the council's prerogative to add a fee, I believe that is something that could be done, but currently, right now, there is no fee for an administrative site plan review besides.
So who will have the authority to create a fee structures, us or your office?
I'm not 100% sure. I believe it's the city council that sets fees, but I'm not 100. I don't deal a lot with fees. The special permit fee is controlled by the city clerk, so I think that's a $250 fee plus advertising costs. But I don't deal a lot with the building fees and permit fees, so I don't know how those get implemented. But certainly in other communities there are fees for different reviews. Springfield just doesn't have one at the moment.
Well, Phil, so the reason I ask, because I think if we're going to be stuck with this law, we might as well capitalize on it and get some sort of revenue. Now, it's not going to be enough to break the bank, of course, but for God's sakes, I don't want to leave any money on the table out there. And so I will encourage you, and I will do my due diligence to see if we can create some sort of a fee structure that makes sense for this ADU. You know, I am, and I want to put this on the record, that every law, for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction to it. And this law, although I think is well-intended, has not only got a lot of good potential, but also some concerning potential. Because if we're not careful with this, I still maintain that this could change what I call the soul of the city, the character of the city. And so this is going to pass regardless. It behooves us to adopt it so that we can have at least some sort of guidelines here locally, and that's what you're asking us to do. But we need to keep a close eye on this. I also spoke to the assessor. He assured me that these new ADUs are going to be promptly and efficiently taxed as well, because the last thing that I want is another attachment onto the property not being taxed appropriately, because at the end of the day, the city does need money. And so that will change the assessment of the house. So that's something else that people need to be mindful of. So I thank you for that. I will follow up with you and with the appropriate departments into looking into some sort of fee structures. Obviously, that's going to have to be looked at later. But thank you, Phil. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Allen?
Sorry. Thanks, Mr. President. Phil, a few random comments about this. I know you've covered most everything, but I think you just mentioned that you spoke to the assessor, Councilor Davila. Okay, so one of my questions was taxes, but we'll assume you talked about that already. Fees, I kind of think this is I agree with Councilor Davila that this is something we should look to charge for. We don't charge for administrative site reviews now. Maybe we should. Have you been part, I assume you went to trainings on this and information sessions. Were there other communities that were struggling with this or talking about trying to change the law or amend the law or any of that? Did you notice, were you part of conversations on that? I know it's very hard to do it. I know it's set in stone next week, but I have thought about, is there a home rule petition? Or I talked to Representative Pupolo today. He said he has a placeholder, if you will, in the I don't know how the legislature does all their stuff, but it sounds like you can put in a request that you might submit a bill at a certain time. And he's done that for this. He said maybe in a few weeks. I asked him when would we have to have something if we wanted to do that. Did you notice any other people thinking about that? I mean, it's hard to figure out what exactly to do. I'm not saying but.
Yeah, I mean, I have been to probably 3 separate kind of larger Zoom conferences, for lack of a better word, where they've had members from the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities kind of do these ADU presentations. I believe they've also come up with a draft regulations themselves. We had ours completed prior to those being circulated. But I mean, I've heard from other communities who have kind of similar concerns of what impact it may have. I have not heard, I've kind of heard rumors of quote unquote challenges, but I am not aware of any formal challenge to the proposed law. Again, that's kind of above my pay grade. I would have to, I'm not exactly sure. Again, if there are going to be changes made, it is going to have to be at the state level. As many of the councilors know, we've been those neighborhoods like McKnight and Six Corners that have been hit kind of negatively impacted by group homes that fall under the Dover Amendment. We've been having discussions about trying to amend that for probably 30 years. So I don't know how easy it is to get a law changed at the state level, but one of the concerns that I've heard one of the biggest concerns I've heard from the neighborhoods was the kind of the owner-occupant issue, and does that open the door for investors to start scooping up homes and putting in ADUs and renting them? Again, that may come out to be true. I don't know. I certainly do agree with the concern that this does have a possibility of impacting single-family residents. Again, I just go back to the fact that these are going to be probably pretty expensive to install. I'm not sure everybody's going to run out and do it, but could they? This law certainly opens the door for that to happen. But again, you're still going to need your basic underlying requirements in order to do it. But Other than that, I'm not aware of any other kind of challenges to the law.
And this is to Councilor Davila a little bit as well, did our assessor Patrick, did he have any concerns on this affecting taxes in a negative way? I mean, the amount of money we bring in is critical to how we run the city. And I know this is trying to address a housing problem, and there are a lot of ways to address a housing problem. This was a new one on me, and maybe it's a great idea, but it doesn't seem like a great idea for gateway cities like ours, which have the taxes that we generate in single-family housing. I think Mr. Allen just said it's half the money we get is from taxes on single-family houses, including businesses, et cetera, whatever, that it's half of everything. So I think of like from a financial stability of the city, does this have a negative impact? I've thought of like trying to set up a meeting of other communities who are going to face this as well. For instance, people from Long Meadow or Wilbraham or South Hadley or wherever to meet and talk about the impact of this on their communities and on our community. So I just ask you, if you hear of anything of that nature going along, I think we don't know the impact of this. We just don't know what it's going to be. And maybe it'll be positive, maybe it won't, maybe it won't, maybe it'll hardly happen at all. But let me just go to one technical thing. The ownership of the lot. So I'll talk about my house. I have a lot. I have a fairly good sized backyard where I could put probably a 30 by 30 house back there or something. Or that house, if something were to be done, that's got to be owned by me, right? The owner of the big parcel is the person who has to own the ADU.
Correct. It has to be in common ownership with the main parcel. It can't be a separate owner.
So I can't rent it to you for you to put something up in my backyard.
You could rent it to me to live there.
Once it was up.
Once it was up, but you couldn't turn it into a condo and sell it to someone as a separate residence or separate ownership. It has to be in common ownership and on the same parcel.
Okay. Well,
So
I don't
that's
want to take, I have a couple others, but I don't want to take too much time, but I do think this is, I think you've done really good work on it and that we should approve what you've done tonight, but it does beg the issue of more discussion and how we figure out if we're doing the right things for this city as a whole. I think we need to vote for this tonight because it puts in place the site plan review, right? If without that, we don't even have that, right?
Correct.
So let's say we vote for this tonight, and next Tuesday or next Monday, somebody comes to Steve Desolet's area, to the building department, and applies for an ADU and starts to fill out the forms. Would the site plan review that you're suggesting be part of that process?
Yes. The building department would send them down to me.
They would what?
They would, if someone comes into the building department for a building permit, they would trigger the fact that they need an administrative site plan review them and send them down to my office to start that application process.
Right,
And then again, once that's completed, they still then need to go back to the building department and apply for all their permits. So with regards to fees, there certainly are still fees involved with all the building issues.
All the building things. Gotcha. All right, I'm going to stop talking at this point and allow someone else to talk. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Allen. Councilor Delgado.
Thank you, Mr. President. This one's kind of an interesting one that I've been thinking about for a while. And on one hand, we have a housing crisis, right? And this is the impetus for why this is happening. And you obviously want to make sure that we have enough units that people can live and lower rent prices. Like you, what you expressed the concern about the owner occupancy piece. But you said it was only for Res A, and A1 is what you're proposing, so only for single families?
Well, that's what the law specifically states. The law says it has to be single-family residentially zoned properties.
So to your point earlier, anybody anywhere can buy a property in Springfield, build it up, because I honestly look at it as it's going to be expensive to build something or renovate something. So only folks with money or folks that live outside of the city are going to be able to do something. If we attach a bunch of fees to it, then that keeps the senior who's probably living on her own, who probably could use the income to actually build it out or actually be able to afford to push it out. So I have a concern on that side is, on one end, I want to make sure we're doing things right, but I also don't want to block people who live here who could use that means. The second thing is, you said we can't require owner occupancy, but can we require a residency requirement?
I don't believe so.
Why not? So what I'm saying is, the person doesn't have to live on the property itself, but that they live in the city of Springfield? Because what I see, again, there's already people from New York, Boston, already buying up our single-family homes, already making it more expensive. That's really what's causing a lot of this. So can we require somebody to live in the city at minimum, not necessarily on the property?
I'm certainly not a lawyer, so
Yeah.
but I mean, I'm just reading. I mean, if you can't require owner occupancy of either the accessory dwelling unit or the principal dwelling, I'm not sure how you then say, but you have to live in Springfield. I'm not sure that's going to pass anybody's challenge, because I think, to me, it kind of defeats the purpose of saying you can't acquire owner occupancy, but you can require them to have to live in Springfield. I don't think that would be considered a.
Is that something that we could get reviewed? I mean, because I think
we can ask for legal.
I mean, you
Ask for
certainly.
legal opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, once this is passed, there's nothing to say this can't be amended. And if the law department determines that that's something you could add, you can certainly put that in. It wouldn't, just to be clear, it's not going to apply to everybody who happened to come in prior to that, but it certainly could be, again, the zoning ordinance can always be amended if state law changes, or if that becomes if the law department determines, yeah, you can, then you could amend that.
And so because it's only on single families and we're adding ADUs, essentially any single family that has an ADU, you're essentially, is it still a single family, or is it now a multifamily, or is it a single family with ADU? Because
it's technically a single family with an ADU. It isn't technically a two-family, but it's a single family with an accessory dwelling unit.
All right. Yeah, I think I'd like to have an opinion on the residency requirement piece. So that way we can kind of, to the points earlier, is keeping some type of middle class and keeping it to within our folks that live in the city.
I'm more than happy to email the law department tomorrow and ask them that question. I would recommend that the council pass what we have tonight, and then if we find that out, we can certainly, I'll move as quickly as we can to amend it. But it's certainly up to you.
Thanks, Phil. No further questions, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Delgado. Any other councilors?
I have a question.
No, not yet, Councilor Allen. Councilor Brown, then Govan, then Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. President. My question, basically, this is just to slow them down. How many people do you think, as far as forecasting, might actually take advantage of this?
To be quite honest with you, Councilor, I don't have any idea. As I mentioned in the subcommittee meeting, I have received some calls from people who have houses asking, can I convert my garage? Can I convert my cellar? But I don't know whether there are going to be 5 people coming in, or I just don't know. It's kind of a wait and see to see who's going to come in and do this.
And my thing is, what's the turnover as far as them submitting the paperwork? Because if we get a large amount of people petitioning, I would hate for us to be swamped and not be able to get to them in a timely manner.
Well, I agree, and I think that was asked at the subcommittee meeting too, about whether additional staffing is going to be needed. I don't know. Certainly if 500 of these applications show up on my desk, I'm probably in a little trouble, but just But just to be clear, there are specific timelines under the administrative site plan review section of the ordinance. The city can't get an application and stick it in a file and you know, if it's not approved under a certain time limit, it gets automatically approved. So the city.
Because one thing and I don't mean to cut you off. I know I'm trying to just hurry up because I know they have to pull permits as far as the construction guys. So they have a lot of things that they have to do before they do construction, anyways. I mean, so this is just really just a hold up because all of the other type of general contracting stuff they would have to do this stuff anyways, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they're still going to need all their building permits. You know, again, depending on the number, I am able to turn around site plan reviews relatively quick.
Okay.
Again, these are basically going to be pretty simple site plans. We're not talking about large projects. These are, you know, it's going to be an addition or a, you know, especially if it's a conversion of a basement. I'm simply looking at whether you have a parking, you know, space.
And wouldn't we go back in and reassess that anyways, as far as the city, and they would pay more taxes on it anyways based on adding the actual addition? Wouldn't that increase the taxes on that property?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that's what Councilor Davila said, that they would be taxed. If you had an
Yeah,
addition.
so it wouldn't hurt us. It'd help us because it would increase the tax revenue because they would come back in and they'd reassess that property, correct?
I believe so.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Councilor Govan, just to remind councilors, we have 13 minutes left. Councilor Govan.
Thank you, Mr. President. So Phil, the site plan review, the homeowner would have to get the site plans made, right?
Correct.
And then you would review them. Do you know what it would cost to have a site plan done?
I don't. You know,
Is it like very expensive or?
I
I'm
think
just thinking, well, go ahead, I'm sorry.
well, I mean, we require site plans for most other, you know, whether it's an administrative site plan review for an ADU or an administrative site plan review for for other uses like, you know, even you know, commercial development or what, special permits. We do require that they get site plans. You know, I think it depends on who you go to, whether it's a surveyor versus an architect. But at the end of the day, they're still going to need all those plans regardless of whether this is a site plan review or not. The building department is still going to require them to submit much more detailed plans than what we're asking as far as building permits and structural plans and all that. So again, that's where I get back to that these accessory dwelling units are not going to be necessarily a cheap thing to do for people. There are going to be some significant costs, and part of that is going to be the cost to get plans drawn up.
Right. So that, yeah, I hear that. And I agree with Council Delgado about you know, we don't want to overburden the residents, the homeowners, especially if they are like, you know, elderly, they've had their house paid off. Maybe they have children that want to live closer to them. So they'll have, you know, somebody there. I just want us to be mindful of that. And then you said, so it's going to be allowed in the zoning where there's single family homes, right?
Residence A and Residence A1.
And in some of those homes, some of them are two-family homes. So if it's a two-family home and they have enough room to build a tiny home, maybe, or another an ADU, would that be allowed even if it's in that Residence A and B, even though it's a two-family house?
No.
Oh, it wouldn't be.
No. This does not apply to multifamily housing.
Okay, and that is a state requirement,
Yes.
or are we doing that?
No, that's the state law.
Okay. So I think, you know, I think that this is something that we need and it's statewide. So I'm hopefully seeing more housing come on board and people will have the ability to choose their housing. So, and I'm in favor of, I think the requirements that you're asking for. So I think we should vote for it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Counselor
Gordon, I hope
Gavon.
you feel better.
Counselor Walsh. Counselor Walsh, you are muted.
Okay, I found the raise my hand button, but I lost the muted button. I did have some questions. One was the historic district, and that was answered. I also was wondering how much interest there had been, but basically I'm a little bit concerned about who actually can live there. So the owner of the house is the one that has to apply for the ADU, is that correct?
Correct. The owner of the property.
But he can then rent to anybody, is that correct?
Correct. And he can also, I mean, you can rent the principal dwelling, and then you can rent the accessory dwelling unit. You know, I can own a property and not live there. So.
Oh, so the owner of the house doesn't have to.
You don't have to, yeah, you just have to be the owner of the property. You don't have to be a resident of the property to do an ADU.
Oh, it's going to be very interesting. I will support your proposal tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Walsh. Any other counselors? Counselor Allen. Can you turn your microphone on, please, Counselor? Thank you.
You can live in a single-family house, but not be in a single-family zone. I think maybe some parts of Forest Park might be that way, where there's, like Magnolia Terrace has some two-family houses on it and some single-family. So,
yes, they do.
Is that what would happen in that situation? It's not a single-family zone, but is a single-family house.
It doesn't apply to multifamily housing. It's single-family residential zoning districts only. So, but, you know, there was also, you know, in some of the conferences I attended, there was argument on other sides that single-family means single-family, whether you're zone residence A or residence A1 or you happen to be zone residence C. You would still need to be that single-family in a residence C. But we're interpreting it as the law is written, that it specifically says single-family residential zoning district.
All right.
So that's how we're interpreting in this one. But there are other communities who are, if you a single family in a multifamily zone, you could do it as well. But we're currently not doing that.
That's an interpretation by Springfield, by you and your
colleagues. And the law department. I asked that specific question as well, because after I attended these conferences, that was brought up. So I asked an interpretation of that specific language, and their interpretation is the language specifically says single-family residentially zoned districts.
Thank you. We're getting near 10 o'clock, so.
Thank you, Counselor Allen. Any other counselors? Counselor Delgado.
Just clarification really quickly on two of these. So on the site plan review, it says it's required an architect to design. So is that for basements and attics as well as the additions?
Well, I mean, it says professional, that
that's what's catching me off guard. Like if my mom who has a basement wants to put an ADU in her basement.
You would need to, I mean, for the site, again, for the site plan review, if you were just doing your basement, I'm not going to require, I'm looking really for the only really site plan related issue I'm going to be looking at is the parking requirements for a house that is not making any additions to their home. It's just adding.
It's saying here you're requiring a registered landscape architect.
Correct. Again, there's a list of people they can get: surveyor, professional architect, surveyor. Because at the end of the day, yes, your mother would still need to get an architect or somebody, an engineer, to draw plans, even for the building department to install.
But I've done that before to help somebody out for a garage, if they wanted to do something on a garage. I wasn't an engineer or architect. I guess I'm just trying to keep it because it looks like this is going to keep people from doing a basement. I don't think you need an architect to put up sheetrock on a basement. But it's saying all site plans must be prepared by a qualified professional. So am I not hearing it?
Well, I mean, to me, if you're doing interior work, a qualified professional could be a carpenter. I mean, I'm not exactly sure what the building department's going to require for an interior, but I'm going to be looking for a plan that's, you know, not on the back of a napkin where they say they've got 6 parking spaces when they really only have 1.
And then the one additional parking space, do they have to create an additional parking, or they just say, oh, they can use my driveway?
Well, they'd have to show me a driveway that can accommodate an additional parking space. A single family, I think, needs to ultimately have at least 2 accessible parking spaces. And if you're going to add an ADU, you've got to show me where that third car is going to park.
So they can't be on-street parking, essentially?
No, on-street parking does not qualify.
Okay.
And it really is probably more for the smaller lots, you know, the 5,000 square foot lots is where you've got to show, and that may require you to add a little turnoff on your driveway to show that I've got an additional parking space.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Delgado. Councilor Govan, and then Councilor Curran. Councilor
Hi.
Govan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sorry. So Phil, I guess I don't know if I was clear. Thank you, Councilor Delgado, for asking that again. So you are asking for an architectural design.
Well, again, it's what's stated in the ordinance is a professional, I don't have the language right in front of me, but a professional to draw the plan. So whether that's an architect or a surveyor or an engineer or, you know, I would take a contractor who can draw a plan. You know, I'm certainly not looking to add expenses, but I ask the same thing of someone who comes in for a used car dealership. I need a plan drawn by someone who can draw a plan to scale and show me exactly what's going on, because I get a lot of plans that scribble out that they want 50 cars when they could fit 6. So I just want to, that's what I'm going to ensure is that they give me a plan. And again, we're
Right. So I'm wondering, do you think it would be cool if we could take the word architect out? Because the reason is that a lot of people, if they see that, they're gonna, of course, get a professional architect, and that's very expensive. Most of the time, they don't live in our city. Did we? Okay. And I think it would just deter a lot of people from moving forward because of that expense right there. So I'm wondering if it would be possible to take at least that word out, because I agree that you do need a site plan, of course, done by a professional, someone who can do that. But that just, to me, seems a little bit too much.
well, but again,
Hey, Phil, before you answer that, I just want to point out, it's 9:58. I'm going to object in 2 minutes if we don't get to a vote. Go ahead, Phil.
Well, I'm just going to say real quickly, there's a number of options. So it's a registered professional engineer, registered land surveyor, architect, or landscape. So I think it provides an option for people. I mean, a surveyor is probably your least expensive option. So a surveyor has the ability to draw a scaled plan.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Any other councilors? Councilor Curran? Okay, there's a motion to move the question. Before we vote on that, we don't need to take a vote on moving the question unless somebody wants to be heard. Does anybody want to be heard? Will you withdraw the motion? Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on approval of the zone change.
On approval of the zone change, Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen? Yes. Yes, Councilor Govan?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Delgado?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Santinello? Away, Councilor Click Bruce?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez absent. Councilor Fenton?
Yes, more than sufficient. Zone change is approved. Okay, any more business, Madam Clerk?
There's not.
Okay, City Council will be adjourned until our next scheduled meeting, scheduled for February 10th, 7 p.m. That is a regular meeting. And thank you, everyone, tonight, and have a good night.